Welcome to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 121 The Girl in the Death Star Palace. One day ago, Death Star Palace. A woman with long, silky hair and a loose kimono was sipping tea leisurely. Next to him stood a tall woman with short blonde hair and a tall figure. This generation of Gojo's 6 eyes really exceeded my expectations. The kimonoed woman put down her teacup, with a hint of curiosity on her face. If possible, I really want to see the 6 eyes who shouldn't have been born. Zanpakuto, this does not belong to this world, but it is very novel. Yuki, how well do you know about Zanpakuto? Looking at the kimono woman slumped on the chair in front of her, the blonde woman looked very helpless. With this look on the outside, no one would believe that this woman was the famous Tenjin-sama in the entire Jujutsu world. 99 Yuki sighed. Tenjin-sama, there are currently 2 Zanpakutos of the Gojo family leaked out. One is in the hands of Yajiozamon, and is named Naka, and the other is in the hands of Zenanjinji, and is named Hanaten Kwanko. I've been with you recently and haven't gone out. How can I know more? Everything is just hearsay. As astral bodies, 99 Yuji has a very special relationship with Tianyuan. Ever since he learned that he was an astral body, his family would regularly send him to the Sing Sing Palace to get along with Tianyuan. Although it was nominally for him to accept the teachings of Lord Tianyuan, it was actually so that he could accept the fact of the astral body as a matter of course and be able to assimilate with Tianyuan when needed. In fact, Juju Yuji didn't pay too much attention to the fact that she was an astral body. However, she felt that it was better to be free. Of course, Tianyuan's lazy personality was beyond her expectation. It was hard for her to imagine whether she would become like this after merging with Tianyuan. Tianyuan stretched his legs and looked at Juju Yuji. Although he is much older than Kyojuyuki, Kyojuyuki's figure is much plumper. A hint of envy appeared on Tianyuan's face, and he whispered. Yuki, go find out about the Zanpakuto, go meet that Gojo Ming, and come back and share it with me. This Sing Sing Palace is very boring. It's rare to meet such an interesting person. Juju Yuji looked a little surprised. He sat across from Tianyuan, looked at this woman whose face was younger than him, and sighed deeply. Lord Tianyuan, are you sure you want to do this? Tianyuan nodded, clasped his hands together, and turned a blind eye. Yuki, please, please. 99 Yuki nodded helplessly and coughed slightly. Then I understand. I will contact Gojo Ming, but I don't know if he is willing to see you. I always feel that a boy who can forge a Zanpakuto might not care much about your identity as Tenjin. A smile appeared on Tianyuan's face. Wouldn't that be nice? Chatting without any inhibitions sounds great. 99 Yuki shrugged and ignored the woman in front of him. She was also very curious about Gojo Ming. At her age, she could already be considered a genius in the Jujutsu world, and Gojo Ming, a boy who created the Zanpakuto at the age of 6, shouldn't he be considered a genius among geniuses? And Gojo Ming is said to be a carrier of heavenly restriction without any magical power. Compared with the Zanpakuto, this identity is more attractive to 99 Yuki. She has had enough of the endless curses in this world and the endless elimination. It would be great if there was a way to completely solve the curses. And Gojo Ming, a being without any magical power, may be able to provide her with some new ideas. It was an hour before Gojo Ming left for the master house. Itadori Kaori watched Zenin go to Gojo's house from the newly built house. She had already made plans for the future. This everything room seems to be quite important to Zenin and Gojo Ming. If Gojo Naru really leaves Gojo's house because of this master house, this may be the best opportunity to snatch the flames and Pakuto. The corners of Itadori Kaori's mouth raised slightly. She was bound to get this flames and Pakuto, even if she had to use all her strength. However, the only thing she needs to pay attention to right now is Zenin, who is by Gojo Ming's side. She is not one of those stubborn old Zenin people who would look down upon Zenin who has zero magic power. If you want to get the Zanpakuto from Gojo Ming's hands, the best thing is to wait for Gojo Ming and Zenin to separate. She was not in a hurry, she had enough patience for this mysterious flame Zanpakuto. As long as Gojo Ming and Zenin choose to go to the master house, her plan can be implemented smoothly. Sure enough, if you have money, you can build anything very quickly. Gojo Ming, with Ryokan Wakawai and Sode Shirayuki on his waist, followed behind Zenin and set off towards the master house. Thanks to the financial support of Gojo Satoru, the master house was completed much faster than planned. Gojo Ming is also full of expectations for this future base. Although it is actually just an ordinary building, this is the obsession of Chinese people for their own house. Although Gojo's huge mansion will belong to Gojo as long as he wants it, Gojo still hopes to have a house that is truly his own. And this all-purpose house is Gojo's first step towards independence. Although all the funds for the house came from Zenin Shur and Gojo Satoru, Gojo Ming did not pay a penny, but this does not prevent him from being the actual owner of the house. Shi-er, how are you getting along with Huishan Kuangwu? Have you found the way to the swastika? Looking at the two Zanpakutos on Zenin's waist, Gojo Ming felt a little confused. Judging from the current progress, Zenin Shi-er and Huishan Kuangwu should have the best compatibility. Therefore, among all the sword borrowers, Zenin Shi-er should be the one most likely to complete the swastika interpretation. Swastika. Zenin paused and shook his head. When he was supervising the construction of the Wanchaiwu house, he had been exploring ways to solve the problem of Huishan Kuangwu, but it was not satisfactory. Although Huishan and Kuangwu did not reject communication with him, they basically received no response when they asked them to assist him in completing his swastika interpretation. After understanding Shi-er's current situation, Gojo Ming also had a look of regret. However, he actually didn't have high expectations. After all, he himself had not yet completed the Zanpakuto's swastika, and he had no right to demand it from others. The two of them walked in silence for more than 10 minutes. Suddenly, Zenin stopped suddenly. Gojo Ming behind him looked forward playfully, a hint of excitement flashed in his 6 eyes. It seems that every time I go out with Shire, I will be attacked. 122. Judging from its strength, this curse should be level 1. Gojo Ming looked at the curse blocking him, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. He also found it very interesting that the first level curse appeared here and had such a clear purpose. The reason why the burning phase attacked him before was because Kumo Zhen ordered him to do so. So, why did this level 1 curse attack him now? The first level curse already has corresponding intelligence, so perhaps we can capture it and interrogate it. When Zenin Shina raised his fist and was about to physically remove the obstacle, Gojo Ming stopped him. The first level curse in front of him was a very good target. Perhaps, he could try to fight the curse and see if he could activate the compatibility between Ryujinjaka and himself. After all, it is the Zanpakuto with the strongest attack power, so he should be very interested in fighting. Shinur, leave this curse to me. I want to try out Ryujinjaka. Hearing Gojo Ming's request, Zenin Shinur nodded and stood aside. He knew Gojo Ming's strength. A first-level curse spirit was nothing to be afraid of. Moreover, even if this first-level curse spirit had a trump card, he had the confidence that he could crush it before this cursed spirit revealed it. Ryujinjaka, please fight with me next time. Gojo Ming held the Ryujinjaka and took the initiative to face the first-level curse spirit. And in the distance where no one noticed, Itadori Kairi quietly watched Gojo Naruto fighting the curse, analyzing the ability of the Zanpakuto in Gojo Naruto's hand. The first-level curse is indeed not a threat to Gojo Naru. However, Kairi also noticed the helplessness that Gojo Naru showed throughout the battle. This first-level curse spirit was killed by Gojo Naruto with his Zanpakuto. During the entire process, the fire-type Zanpakuto did not release any techniques. A smile appeared on Kaori's face. Sure enough, such a powerful Zanpakuto has not been completely controlled. With Gojo Naruto's current strength, he is still unable to use the true power of that Zanpakuto. If that were the case, it would be much easier. Kaori muttered to herself and turned around silently. This first level curse had already revealed enough information for her and was no longer of any use. That's too much. That's too much. You are a Zanpakuto after all. How is this performance different from an ordinary katana? The opponent is cursed. Can you show a little dignity of your Zanpakuto? Even if you just set off a small flame to burn the opponent to death, it will be considered as refreshing your presence. Gojo Ming held the warm Ryujinjaka and looked at the curse that had been cut into pieces by him in front of him, feeling very depressed. Although Ryujinjaka is the most powerful Zanpakuto, it is no better than a fire stick in his hand at this moment. So, the Shikyu that I mastered is actually just a disguise trick, right? After reciting the first words, he transformed into Ryujinjaka, and then everything else was the same as Asachi, right? Zenin Shinji took Gojo Ming's complaints to heart, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Compared to the lack of cooperation of Ryujinjaka, my own Katen Kyokotsu can be said to have too much cooperation. As for your temporary unwillingness to cooperate with Bankai, then just let it be. I won't force you. After all, Zyahua is a cool and aloof person. If she were to complete her Bankai too easily, her character would probably be ruined. Let's go, Master Gojo Naruto. Or should I give you another half an hour to communicate with Ryujinjaka? Zenin Shin's joke immediately made Gojo Ming's face pull long. Let's go to the Wanchaiwa quickly. Itadori Kaori turned around and prepared to leave, but the next second, her body suddenly froze. Beside her, a blonde girl appeared out of nowhere. Well, the angle here is really good. Are you here to pay attention to Gojo Naruto as well? Jujuyuki looked at the beautiful woman beside him, his big eyes full of curiosity. The woman in front of me has short hair, the same as myself, but she is much more dashing than myself. She was somewhat envious of the woman's temperament. Very cool, but a little pitiful. There are sutures on the forehead from surgery. Could it be that he just had a craniotomy? Which sorcerer family is this from? Even in this state, he still has to come out to gather intelligence. Facing Jujuyuki beside her, Itadori Kaori was silent for a few seconds, and then a bright smile appeared on her face. Yes, after all, Gojo Naruto is a hot figure in the entire world of curse arts, so we have to pay more attention to him, right? This girl looks like she is only in her teens, but she has such abundant cursed energy. How come I have never heard of this person? Blonde hair, very young, incomprehensible. Moreover, it seems that she is also coming for Gojo Naru. I don't know what her purpose is. Well, it's better to wait and see. Itadori Kaori nodded slightly to Jujuyuki. Little sister, are you here to keep an eye on Gojo Naru? But don't be too careless. If you get too close, you'll be spotted by Zenin Jinner next to Gojo Naru. Although Chanyuan Shenner doesn't have any cursed power, he is now the undisputed number one in the Chanyuan family. Itadori Kaori's reminder made Jujuyuki's eyes light up again. She had heard before that Zenin Jinner had defeated two first-level sorcerers of the Zenin family at the same time with his physical body and Zanpakuto. The most important thing is that Zenin Shinji and Gojo Ming are both carriers of the sky and curse with zero spell power. Isn't this a coincidence? The two people she was most interested in actually met each other. This was an opportunity given to her by God. Everything is just right. From Hongxin Palace to here, it is all God's arrangement. Perhaps, she could analyze the reasons for the appearance of zero curse power and curse binding through Gojo Naruto and Zenin Shinji. I hope Gojo Naru and Zenin Shinji can cooperate with her. Of course, if they are unwilling to cooperate, she doesn't mind using her own methods to make them cooperate. Well, thank you for telling me, big sister, you. Kyojokuyuki withdrew his gaze from Gojo Naru and Zenin Shinji, and just when he was about to thank her, he found that the dashing woman who was beside him just now had disappeared. Do you want to know her name? With such a strong curse and such obvious characteristics, we should be able to find out if we go back and ask around. I just wonder what she's thinking by paying attention to Gojo Naruto here? Forget it, it's too troublesome. The world of curse arts is always so chaotic and complicated. Jujutsu shook his short golden hair. If Gojo Naruto is rated as a sorcerer, and can exorcise a first-level curse directly with a samurai sword, what level should he be rated? Well, he can exorcise a first-level curse without a spell, and after using the Sode no Shirayuki spell, there should be nothing wrong with being rated as a first-level one. The Zen temple is so beautiful, the 5-line ringing sound. Jujutsu murmured the names of the two people and followed them from a distance to the door of the Yorozwaya. Chapter 123 Miss, the Yorozwaya shop is not open yet. Yoshiya. Looking at the plaque hanging on this quaint house, Jujutsu felt very curious. She didn't know why Gojo Naru and Zenin Shinji came to this place. Could it be that these two people from the big three sorcerer families actually needed help from others? Jujutsu hesitated at the door for a moment, and finally decided to go into the Yorozwaya to take a look. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Yeah, pretty good. After following Shenner around the Yorozwaya, Gojo Ming nodded with satisfaction. Although this quaint building doesn't quite match the surroundings, what does it matter? Anyway, as long as you like it, it's fine. Jokai and Bleach have already linked up, so adding Gintama shouldn't be a big deal, right? Moreover, Bayasha also has white hair, and I also have white hair. It is obvious that I am doing a good job as a boss. As for what exactly is the Wanchaiwa going to do? Gojo Naruto hasn't made up his mind yet, but since he and Shinji are both members of the big three sorcerer families in the world of sorcery, they should focus more on solving the problems of the world of sorcery. After all, the problems of the secular world do not really interest them. Shenner, let's find someone to make a disguise tent for the Yorozwaya later. If someone other than a sorcerer enters here, it will be a bit troublesome. Gojo Ming put forward some of his own requests, and Zenin Shinner nodded and took note of them. For him, this Yorozwaya will be his new home in the future. If he is often disturbed by ordinary people, his life will become unstable. This room is mine. You can arrange the remaining rooms yourself. Oh, by the way, remember to leave one for Wu. After all, he is also a shareholder. For the living area on the second floor, Gojo Naruto chose a room with the best lighting, and he also did not forget to make some arrangements for Gojo Satoru. When Zenyu and Shen, who was standing nearby, heard that Gojo Satoru might live here in the future, his expression suddenly became a little bad. The conflict between two people will not disappear with the passage of time. However, thinking that Gojo Satoru had indeed invested a large amount of money, Zenyu Shinner could only hold his nose and express his approval. After all, there are still many rooms upstairs. Even if Gojo Satoru is not assigned a room, he can live directly in the guest room in the future. Even then, other places need to be decorated as well, and some flowers and plants should be prepared as decorations. Don't be too straight. When you are in a relationship, you have to bring the girl home to see her. Being too cold will make people feel scared. The most important thing is that your deadpan face combined with your frigid family style is really going to turn girls off. Gojo Ming looked at Zenin Shinner, who had been hanging around the Yorozwaya recently, and his expression was a little conflicted. He did want to introduce the girl from the Gojo family to Zenin Shinji, but according to the original work, Shinji and Huema should have a very good relationship. What if Fushiguro Megami disappears because of my meddling? Gojo Ming shook his head and decided to wait and see. Zen and Shinji never expected that a 6-year-old child like Gojo Naru would interfere in his love life. A frown appeared on his face. He placed his right hand on the top of Gojo Ming's head and said with a frown, "Since you have time to care about my love life, why don't you consider your relationship with Shoko? Ever since you inexplicably offered to forge a Zanpakuto for Shoko last time, she's been looking at you differently." Zenin Shinner's observation ability is amazing. During this period of time, he secretly observed everyone around Gojo Naru, so he naturally understood the changes in Iiri Shoko's emotions towards Gojo Naru. Gojo Naru looked embarrassed when he heard Shinji suddenly mention Shoko. Just as Jujuyuki was about to enter the counter to learn more about the situation in this Yorozwaya, footsteps came from the bed upstairs and the voice of a young boy sounded in his ears. Jujuyuki wanted to explore the thinking logic of Gojo Naru and Zenin Shinji as if he had discovered a new continent. However, since Gojo Ming and Zenin Shinji went up to the second floor, it meant that her previous guess was wrong. Gojo Ming smiled awkwardly at Zenin Shinner's sarcastic hint. "It seems someone is coming." That's not necessary, is it? Shoko is only 6 years old. The Zen temple didn't even have 6 eyes, but the senses that were strengthened to the extreme by the heaven and the curse were able to clearly feel the specialness of the visitor. They were also very curious, could it be that Wanchaiwu had already received business on the first day of its opening? After all, the first floor is generally considered a business place, but the second floor is a private space. She was indeed curious. Gojo Ming was just about to explain a few words, but the next second, Zenin Shinner's eyes subconsciously looked at the floor beneath his feet. "I think there might not be enough guest rooms upstairs. Maybe in a few days, one of the guest rooms will be given away by someone, right? Why would the strongest man of the Zenin family, the Six-Eyes son of the Gojo family who is currently in the limelight, build a strange Yorozwaya in this place?" Jujuyuki walked into the Yorozwaya and looked at the empty room with a surprised expression. Jujuyuki looked up at the wooden ladder and decided to wait for a while. If Shoko really wants to live in this Yorozwaya, as the owner, I will never make the decision to drive the guest away. Gojo Ming also lowered his head. He was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that someone would come in as soon as the door of the Yorozwaya was opened. "Miss, our Wanchaiwu is not open today. If you need anything, please come back another day." This shouldn't be the case. Gojo Naruto is now a very popular figure in the entire sorcery world. Many small sorcerer families are lining up to ask Gojo Naruto to forge their Zanpakuto. Well, let's go down and take a look. This is really something he would do. You are 6 years old, and she is 6 years old. Aren't they the perfect age for childhood sweethearts? Besides, Shoko, who possesses the reverse curse technique talent, must have very high standards. She probably won't look down on anyone else since she's been with you and Gojo Satoru every day. Although I have no hostility towards you, intruding into someone else's private space without their consent will definitely cause them to feel disgusted. The whole room is very large, but the only thing that comes into view is a very quaint counter that looks a bit like the Edo period. Next to the counter is a wooden staircase leading to the second floor. Is it because family life is too boring? Gojo Naru's 6 eyes saw the appearance of the person who came, and also sensed the technique that this person possessed. Zen Yuan shrugged his shoulders. Gojo Ming and Zenin Jinner did not come to this Yorozwaya to seek help. The two of them should be the owners of this Yorozwaya. Are you just a curious person? How could this young master of the Gojo family have the time to open this Yorozwaya? There is a problem. Zenin Shinner and Gojo Ming looked at each other, nodded, and turned to go downstairs. Gojo Naru's Zen temple is not even on the first floor. No, he's still a sorcerer. Chapter 124 I want to study your body. Jujuyuki looked up at the stairs, and Gojo Naru's Zenin Shinner walked down the stairs slowly. Gojo Naru and Kyojokuyuki, who were walking in the front, looked at each other. What a cute little boy. Is he Gojo Naruto, who has recently been shaking up the world of sorcery with the help of his Zanpakuto? Well, this head of white hair combined with blue eyes is really adorable. It was the first time that Kyojuyuki saw Gojo Naru at such a close distance. The moment she saw Gojo Naru's face clearly, she realized that this little boy in front of her was her type. Gojo Ming looked at the girl in front of him with short golden hair, who was a few years older than himself, and felt that she looked familiar. Although he was sure that he had never seen this woman before, the familiarity in his heart would not lie. There is no doubt that this person must be someone I am familiar with in the original work. Thinking of this, Gojo Ming looked at the girl more carefully. Looking at her shoulder-length golden hair and her already plump figure, her future image became clearer and clearer. Kyojukuyuki. This girl is Kyojukuyuki. Gojo Ming widened his eyes slightly and confirmed the girl's identity. Why is Kyojukuyuki in Tokyo? Shouldn't her home be in Kyoto? Kyojukuyuki should be in junior high school now, so how come he is here, and even appears in his own Yorozwaya? Seeing Gojo Naru staring at her, Jujutsu suddenly blushed. At this moment, she is not yet the plump and tall big sister who would ask everyone she meets in the future, "What kind of woman do you like?" Although the 12-year-old Jujutsu looks mature physically, she is still just a teenage girl mentally. This time she came to see Gojo Naruto more because of Tianyuan's request. Otherwise, although she was curious about Gojo Naruto, she would not have rushed into someone's house like this. The blush on Kyojukuyuki's face made Gojo Ming feel a strong contrast. At this moment, it is difficult for Gojo Ming to associate the short-haired and pure Kyojukuyuki with the future dashing biker with long flowing hair and a voluptuous figure. Out of curiosity about the reason why Kyojukuyuki came to the Yorozwaya, Gojo Naru, although he already knew his identity, still pretended not to know him. "Miss, although the Wanchaiwu has not opened for business today, if you have any questions, you can come and tell us. You are also a sorcerer. Are you facing any curse problems? Or do you have any other needs? It just so happens that the ace shopkeeper of the Wanchaiwu is in the store today." Gojo Ming pointed at Zenin Shinner behind him and instantly gave him a position. Ace shopkeeper equals gold medal thug, no problem. Being stared at by Gojo Naru's 6 eyes, Jujutsu was a little hesitant. She didn't know whether she should reveal her identity. Tenjin is highly respected in the entire sorcery world. If I bring up Tenjin's mission, Gojo Naruto and Zenin Shinji might give Tenjin some face. However, the girl also has her own pride in her heart. Since Gojo Naru is her type, even though there is an age gap between them, she still hopes that their interactions can be simple when they first meet. Zenin Shinji and Gojo Ming just stared at Kyojukuyuki with their eyes wide open, and the whole room was filled with an awkward atmosphere. Realizing that it was Gojo Naru who handed over the step, Jujutsu breathed a sigh of relief, looked at Gojo Naru deeply, and began to introduce himself. "What do you need? It seems like there is none? Should I just say that Tenjin-sama also wants to know about Zanpakuto? The Yorozwaya, the Yorozwaya." This commission was completely beyond the imagination of the two, and made Gojo Naruto and Zenin Shinji fall into complete silence. After all, this is a serious industry, and I have to ask for compensation after completing the commission. "Miss, please relax a little." Seeing the reactions of Gojo Naru and Zenin Shinner, Jujutsu was a little confused at first, but then she paused and realized the ambiguity of her words. Her pretty face immediately blushed and she waved her hand quickly, saying, Gojo Naruto had no objection to forging a Zanpakuto for Kyojukuyuki. How can I say such ambiguous words? Studying boys' bodies makes others sound very indecent. Don't misunderstand. Looking at Yuki Kyoju's blushing reaction, Naruto Gojo probably realized that he had misunderstood. However, seeing the scene of the royal sister blushing, he felt much more relaxed. After all, they are the 4 great special grade sorcerers of the future, people who are at the top of the entire sorcery world. If you build good relationships with them in advance, and then get a lot of experience points from them, it can be considered a win-win situation for both parties. Since you know me, you must know me too. However, we don't know you yet. Since there is really a commission, then we should first get to know the first customer of the Wanchaiwu, right? Are all girls nowadays so straightforward? If you are interested in boys' bodies, go and relearn your junior high school physiology class. Zen Temple's expression was stiff. Jujutsu thought about the plaque outside the door, and an idea came to his mind. However, Gojo seems to be a very good sword borrower. If I could become my sword borrower, it would be an experience package comparable to Gojo Satoru's. Since it's a jack of all trades, you should be able to tell us whatever you need. Gojo Ming was already thinking in his heart what kind of trading items he should ask for after Jujutsu made the request. Jujutsu raised his head, exposing his slender neck to Gojo Naru's eyes. He looked like a proud swan, and expressed a request that Gojo Naru didn't know how to refuse. Seeing Gojo staring at himself and Shinjiro's Zanpakuto on his waist, Gojo Naruto had some guesses in his mind. Gojo Ming smiled and took the initiative to break the awkwardness in the store. Well, but doesn't Gojo have the Shikigami Horin? The Horin should be her best weapon. Does she still need a Zanpakuto? Gojo Naruto didn't realize what Yukikuwa was really thinking. She just thought that it sounded very erotic for a teenage girl to study a boy's body. Even if he is a future special grade sorcerer, Yukikuwa would be interested in Zanpakuto. What kind of lewd words is this person saying? No, that's not it. Just when Gojo Naruto was thinking about which Zanpakuto was suitable for Gojo told him the content of his commission. Gojo Naru, I want to study your body. Understanding Zanpakuto is Lord Tenjin's requirement, but for myself, I want to study Gojo Naru and Zenin Jinner more. But what kind of Zanpakuto should be forged for Gojo? There was constant steam coming out of Jujutsu's head, and it seemed that a pot of water could boil above his head at any time. Chapter 125 I Can Be Your Girlfriend. I'm Yukaiji Gojo, and I have a dream. Yuki Gojo's self-introduction gave Naruto Gojo a sense of déjà vu as if he had met Martin Luther King. However, after listening to her real request, Gojo Ming finally remembered that the woman in front of him was a person who acted unconventionally but had a firm goal. Being a star plasma, he refused to assimilate with Tianyuan. Hate the curse, and always want to find a way to completely eliminate the curse. Because of the conversation with her, the special grade sorcerer Geto Summer Oil clarified his own path, became a sorcerer, and walked on it unswervingly. Taught the outstanding first-class sorcerer Aoitudu. In the end, in order to protect Tianyuan and to achieve the established plan, he died in the hands of the rope in the Hongxing Palace without even opening his domain. There is no doubt that this is a complex and charming woman, but her final outcome is the same as Gojo Satoru's, and she was caught in a plot killing. Gojo wanted to study her own body because she was a person with zero cursed power. Gojo Naruto could understand that. After all, in the original work, she had tried to study Zenin Shinji, but was rejected by him. However, although we understand, we cannot agree to such things casually. Miss Juju, you said you wanted to study me because I have no magical power. But, Jinner is also a being without magical powers, why don't you ask to study him? This is somewhat different from the original book. In response to Gojo Naru's question, Gojo eyes quickly swept over Zenin Shinji and Gojo Naru, and he began to murmur in his heart. There is no difference between the two of you, both of you are heaven and curse with zero spell power, but since you want to do research, you have to choose a research subject you like, right? Zenin Shinji looks fierce and he is not easy to get along with. Even if I ask him to do something, he probably won't agree, right? Although he thought so in his heart, Jujutsu couldn't say it out loud. Although both of you have no cursed power, Zen and Shinji's body has already taken shape, while you, Gojo Naruto, are still young and your body is still developing. You should be able to study the reason why your cursed spirit is 0. Jujutsu made up an excuse. Gojo Ming looked suspicious, as if to say, I think you are lying to me, but I can't find any evidence. That makes sense. After thinking for more than 10 seconds, Gojo Ming nodded. From a scientific point of view, children's bodies are indeed more creative and unknown than those of adults. Shinner, you seem to be disliked. Gojo Ming patted Zenin Shinner, his eyes full of teasing. However, Zenin Shinner would not pay any attention to Gojo Naruto. He raised his eyebrows and said, this Miss Juju is obviously interested in you. Do you really think there is any difference between us? Although you are 6 eyes, my observation ability is much more careful than yours. Seeing Zenin Shinner's mouth shaped to read Shoko, Gojo Naru was choked. That's because I'm more popular than you. Gojo Naruto retorted stubbornly, but unfortunately Zenin Shinji was not willing to pay any attention to him. He squeezed past Gojo Naruto and sat behind the counter, leaving the space for Gojo Naruto and Kyojuku. Take him to the back to chat. He's the first guest the Yorosui receives. It's not good to let him stand and chat all the time, right? I won't accompany you anymore. Chanyu and Shenner pointed to a door curtain next to the counter and pursed his lips. After being reminded by Shinji, Gojo Ming realized that the hospitality was indeed a bit inconsiderate. He glared at Zen and Shinji, and then called Jujutsu to go to the reception area at the back. After following Gojo Naruto into the door curtain, Kyojuku discovered that the entire Yorosui was a different world. Compared with the empty area at the front with only a counter, the furniture in the reception area is much more substantial. However, Jujutsu felt that the reception area did not live up to its name. This area was more like a living room of a home, with a kotetsu and a TV in it. It did not look like a place to entertain guests in a store at all. Looking at this reception area which did not look business-like at all, Gojo Ming smiled a little awkwardly. It did not seem like there was any place here to entertain people. Sorry, the hospitality is not good and the facilities are not very complete. How about we get into the kotetsu? Gojo Ming asked tentatively. After all, there are differences between men and women. It always felt a bit too abrupt to invite a girl to sit in the kotetsu in an unfamiliar place. However, to Gojo Naru's surprise, Kyojuku actually nodded, took off his shoes, walked to the kotetsu and got in. It's so warm. Jujutsu lay directly on the table of the kotetsu and stretched his whole body. Kotetsu is the perfect match for winter. Realizing that Kyojuku only treated him as a little boy, Gojo Naru stopped hesitating and went straight into the kotetsu. In Neon, the kotetsu is a magical tool for winter. The two of them curled up their legs in the kotetsu, the winter chill was slowly dispelled, and they began to get down to business. Well, Gojo Naruto, does your attitude just now mean that you agree to my commission? Jujutsu's heart was full of anticipation. Judging from the conversation between Gojo Naru and Zenin Shinji just now, Gojo Naru doesn't seem to be very resistant to this proposal. In this way, not only can he get to know the six-eyed son of God of the Gojo family, but he can also analyze the reasons for the formation of zero curse power. This is a double gain for her. As for the task assigned to her by Tianyuan, she had completely forgotten about it at this moment. Facing the expectant look on Kyojuku's face, Gojo Naru smiled, looked at Kyojuku, and pointed to his own eyes. This is the secret of the Gojo family. Your proposal will never be accepted. Please allow me to refuse, Miss 99. Gojo Naru's polite refusal made Jujutsu a little disappointed. However, she was unwilling to miss such an opportunity. After chatting with Gojo Naru for such a long time, the two of them became much more familiar with each other. Jujutsu frowned slightly, and a bold and embarrassing idea emerged in her mind. If you agree to let me study it, I can be your girlfriend. People like my sister are very popular. Moreover, my spells are very powerful, and I am definitely the best choice for a girlfriend. Gojo Naruto, would you like to consider it? Ahem. In the front area, behind the counter, Zenin Shinur, who was drinking water, suddenly choked. With his sharp ears and eyes, he never expected to hear such words from Jujutsu. Although he had just noticed that Jujutsu seemed to have some feelings for Gojo Naru, but, it shouldn't be that serious, right? The teenage Kyojokuyuki is old enough to fall in love, but Gojo Naruto is only 6 years old. If Shoko and Gojo Naru are considered childhood sweethearts, then Kyojokuyuki and Gojo Naru are the older and younger of the two. Chapter 126 Is my charm so bad? Kyojokuyuki's words made Gojo Naruto somewhat doubt his own ears. He stared into Jujutsu's eyes, looking for any sign of a joke. But unfortunately, Jujutsu's expression was very serious, and there was no sign of joking at all. Miss Juju, I just... Gojo Ming reminded gently. I don't mind, I like it. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Jujutsu responded directly without any hesitation. Miss Juju, there is a big age gap between us. It seems that we are not that suitable for each other. Gojo Ming looked at his body and suddenly felt powerless. This kind of thing is not good. It's okay. We sorcerers don't need to care about it. Jujutsu seemed to have already thought of what the future would be like, which made Gojo Ming speechless. Miss Juju, you can't trade feelings for something like that. Besides, this is our first meeting today, so we're probably not familiar with each other yet. Gojo Naruto didn't know how to deal with Jujutsu. Before traveling through time, he was not very good at dealing with this kind of proactive girl. Now that he has traveled through time and space to this world with his memories, he has not changed much. And Yuki Kyojoku seemed to realize that this was where Naruto Gojo was not good at, and he became more proactive. Then Gojo Naruto, do you think I'm pretty? Jujutsu asked very bluntly. So, it shouldn't be a problem to meet my research requirements. I know your Zanpakuto is very powerful, and you recently forged a flaming Zanpakuto that can change the sky. Before, Kyojuyuki was the kind of girl who would blush when this topic was mentioned, but without Zenin Shinjiro, it seemed like she had become a completely different person. That's it? I'm pretty, and you don't offend me. I know this without you telling me, but it's really not time for me to fall in love yet. Let's get back to the point. If you need to forge a Zanpakuto, that's easy. When I asked you for a commission in the beginning, I really just wanted to give you a reason to forge your Zanpakuto. If you ask me to forge a Zanpakuto, I will agree to it, but I really cannot agree to any other requests. Jujutsu continued to ask. Seeing Gojo Naruto just staring at him without saying a word, Jujutsu was also very unhappy. He had already taken the initiative, but Gojo Naruto could still be so calm? So am I the type you like? It doesn't have to be the only type you like, but is it the type that would offend you? There will be no conflict. Don't mention it, it's all tears. Flowing blade is useless now. It's no different from a fire stick. At most, it's just a sharper samurai sword. It's too difficult. As the first client of Wanchaiwu, we also want to complete our first commission, but, unfortunately, Wanchaiwu is unable to help you. Gojo Ming didn't dare to continue discussing the topic of boyfriend and girlfriend with Jujutsu. This was an area he was not good at. Moreover, at his age, it was indeed not the time for him to care about this. Just now, while persuading Gojo Naru, Kyojokuyuki had already completed his self-strategy. Jujutsu was a little disappointed to see Gojo Naru change the subject so abruptly, but she was still unwilling to give up. Jujutsu's competitive spirit was immediately aroused. Although she had no other love experience, she had seen pigs run even though she had never eaten pork. But you may not know that I, Yukaiji Kyojoku, am also very strong. Dante, I know you are very strong. You will be the ceiling of sorcerers in the future. Among the 4 top-grade sorcerers, who dares to say that you are not strong? Will Kyojoku Yuki be angry because of being rejected by me? You are now well known in the entire world of sorcery, but I, Yuaki Kyojuyo, will definitely not be inferior to you in the future. Gojo Naruto, it's really not easy to find a girlfriend like me. You are so familiar with the route, you must be a veteran driver. Hearing Gojo Naru's answer, Jujutsu smiled happily. She felt that Gojo Naruto didn't know her well enough. If Gojo Naruto saw her true power, perhaps the six-eyed son of God of the Gojo family would know how precious she was. No, my standards are not as high as you think. Can we not dwell on this topic? Gojo Naru, I know you have high standards. Isn't this contrast a bit too great? Although it was a bit abrupt, she felt that with her charm, Gojo Naru, a little boy with a mature soul, should not be able to resist. Gojo Ming smiled bitterly, was silent for a few seconds, and finally nodded. Kyojoku Yuki can indeed be regarded as the most handsome person in the entire Curse Return world. Gojo Naruto looked at Kyojoku Yuki and felt that the future top-grade sorcerer seemed to be in front of him, with the main focus being a contrast. Being stared at like this by Kyojoku Yuki, Gojo Ming felt a chill on his back. Ms. Juju, although I have no objection to you, I cannot accept your request. Kyojo Yuki supported herself on the kotetsu table with both hands and suddenly approached Gojo Naru. The girl's breath sprayed on Gojo Naru's face, making it difficult for Gojo Naru to dodge. A burning fighting spirit ignited in Jujutsu's eyes. Gojo Ming was a little helpless, but still nodded. Chapter 127 Star's Wrath. Is it true that my charm is so poor? Jujutsu opened his eyes wide and stared at Gojo Naru, insisting on getting an answer from Gojo Naru. Facing this already charming girl, Gojo Ming was a little overwhelmed and his eyes flickered subconsciously. And this dodge allowed Kyojo to see through Gojo Naru's thoughts. The girl smiled proudly. She knew that she still had some charm. Although Gojo Naru was only 6 years old, he still had feelings for her. Thinking of this, Jujutsu wanted to show his strength even more. Although the Kyojoku family is not as famous as the Gojo family, it is also a well-known sorcery family in the Kyoto sorcery world. His identity and strength are definitely worthy of Gojo Naru, the six-eyed son of God. Gojo Naru, stretch out your hand. Jujutsu stared at Gojo Naru and said seriously. Gojo Ming was a little confused, but he still stretched out his hand. He was also very curious about what Jujutsu wanted to do. I know you don't have any skills, but I don't care what your family's ancestral skills are. My skills will never lose to the Gojo family. Next, I will let you see my true strength. I will definitely be the strongest girl you have ever seen. After hearing what Kyojoku said, Gojo Ming had no idea what Kyojoku was going to do. Gojo Naru might know more about Kyojoku technique than she does, and she doesn't want to take on the power of Star Wrath casually. However, when Gojo Naruto wanted to pull back his right hand, Kyojoku slender fingers had already touched Gojo Naruto's palm. Gojo Naruto, as long as you can remove my fingers, I will give up my previous commission and will not ask to be your girlfriend. Otherwise, you will be my boyfriend from now on, and you are not allowed to have any ambiguity with other girls. The surrounding environment did not change at all, but Gojo Naruto knew that Kyojoku had already used her technique, Star Wrath. Even though it was just a finger pressing on his hand now, this finger had been given the power he imagined through Jujutsu's Star Fury. Gojo Naruto, this is my power. I know you are gifted, but can you withstand my power? There are word traps in Kyojoku's words. This finger can be said to be the power of Jujutsu, but it does not come from itself. Gojo Naru is not fighting against Kyojukuyuki's own power, but the quality of the illusion bestowed by Kyojukuyuki's technique. However, at this moment, being pressed by this one finger, the power to fight against 99 Yuki was actually fighting against the imaginary mass of Star Wrath. Seeing Kyojukuyuki's slender fingers pressing on his palm, Gojo Ming showed a hint of amusement on his face and chuckled. This force is really strong. Then he tried to withdraw his right hand, but unfortunately, Kyojukuyuki's fingerprints did not move at all. Zenin Shinji in the front area felt the change in Kyojukuyuki's cursed power and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. He had just listened to Kyojukuyuki's entire conversation and he also wanted to know how Gojo Naruto would respond. Previously, he was talking about his love life upstairs without any shame. Now it's Gojo Naru's turn. Do you know what it means to talk without any pain? Zenyu and Shen'er drank a cup of tea leisurely, not caring at all about what happened in the back area. Although Kyojukuyuki is indeed very strong, Gojo Naru, who possesses a Zanpakuto, is not inferior to Kyojukuyuki in strength. However, now it depends on the current level of Gojo Ming's physical strength. Zenin Jinner was also looking forward to whether Gojo Naru's body, cursed by the heavens and the curse, could withstand the technique of Kyojukuyuki. Gojo Naruto just mentioned wait. I feel like he knows something about me. But, something is wrong. I should not have used the technique in front of outsiders. Besides, it is impossible for anyone to guess what the ability of my technique is at first glance. However, what exactly did Gojo Naruto's smile just now mean? Never mind, never mind. With Gojo Naruto's current strength, it is absolutely impossible for him to defeat the imaginary mass of Star Wrath. Jujutsu was a little surprised by Gojo Naru's reaction, but she was absolutely confident in her own strength. Although the mass she imagined was not high, she only imagined the mass of twice herself, only a mere 180 pounds, but this mass was absolutely unimaginable for a 6-year-old boy. It is basically impossible to lift 180 kilograms with one hand, even for an adult. Therefore, from the very beginning of this bet, she had already had an absolute advantage. Seeing Gojo Naruto trying to pull his hand away, Jujutsu laughed secretly. Pulling away the palm was indeed the best method. The mass of her fingers was not pressing on Gojo Ming's palm, but was just supporting it in the air. Therefore, if Gojo Ming did not exert force upwards, he would not feel the mass of 180 kilograms at all. But how could she not have thought of it? So she chose to use her fingers instead of her palms. Her fingers poking into Gojo Naruto's palms was like a nail nailing Gojo Naruto's palms. Therefore, unless Gojo Ming used his own strength to lift his fingers up, he would have no chance of winning. However, if Gojo Ming made such a choice, he would be faced with another difficult problem, that is, whether Gojo Ming's own palms were strong enough. Otherwise, if he lifted it forcibly, the fingers weighing 180 kilograms would be enough to pierce his palms. In Yuki Kuwaji's opinion, she had blocked all of Gojo Naru's escape routes. In this bet, Gojo Ming is already in a losing position. But, unfortunately, what Jujutsu didn't know was that she was facing Gojo Naru, who was sure to win every bet this year. Jujutsu might think that she had calculated everything, but she had no idea how strong Naojuku's body was. Although Gojo Naruto looks like he is only 6 years old, after training with Zenin Shinji and achieving great success in Hakuta, his body has reached a strength that is unimaginable for ordinary people. Even though he is not as strong as Zenin Shinji yet, a strength of 180 kilograms is no problem for Gojo Naruto. Isn't it just lifting 180 kilograms with one hand? A person with a system of cheats can lift 180 kilograms with one hand, is that okay? Chapter 128, Attack by an Unexpected Person. Miss Juju, if I win this bet, then we shouldn't dwell on this topic anymore. A confident smile appeared on Gojo Ming's face. This made Jujutsu feel unbelievable, as this was a weight of 180 kilograms. I'm afraid Gojo Naruto's own weight doesn't even reach 1/3 of this weight, right? 5. Just as Jujutsu was about to open his mouth to question, a powerful force suddenly came from his fingertips, and his fingers actually shook. This kind of force feedback made Jujutsu stunned. How is this possible? How could a little boy like Gojo Naruto with skinny arms and legs be able to exert such power just now? Jujutsu thought that there was something wrong with his feeling, but then Gojo Ming's palm exerted force again. Under his shocked gaze, Gojo Ming's right hand wrapped around Jujutsu's fingers and slowly raised it up. With a force of 180 kilograms, Gojo Naruto's expression did not change at all, as if he really lifted up Jujutsu's arm. How is that possible? How could you have done that? Jujutsu opened her eyes wide and didn't react until Gojo Naru let go of her hand. Wu Tiaoming's mouth corners slightly raised. Miss Juju, the mass you imagined is still too light. Don't you want to study my body? It seems that you don't know enough about Tianyu Zufu's body. Gojo Ming stood up and stretched. I won the bet, Miss Juju, please don't bring up the previous topic again. I have to go back too, so I won't entertain Miss Juju anymore. If you have any other needs, please go to Shi'er. He will decide whether to accept the commission based on the actual situation. After saying that, Gojo Ming nodded to Jujutsu, turned around and left. Gojo Naru's steps were quick. He didn't know what other brilliant ideas Jujutsu would come up with next. He really couldn't handle such a woman. And Jujutsu was still staring at his fingers in a daze, his face full of disbelief. Gojo Naru's power is beyond the imagination of normal people and should not be possessed by a 6-year-old boy. Is it a ritual? Jujutsu wondered if Gojo Naru had some technique that allowed him to raise his hands. But then she wanted to laugh at her own thought. How was it possible? Gojo Naru was recognized by the entire magic world as a person without magic power, so it was impossible for him to possess a magic ritual. Therefore, there is only one truth. Gojo Naru's power is really that strong. Just as he said, he wanted to study the powerless heaven and the curse bearers, but his understanding of heaven and curse was still too one-sided. Is this the strength of heaven and curse? Jujutsu looked at Gojo Naru's leaving back, and an inexplicable smile appeared on his face. He is really a mysterious boy. I am really interested in him now. Moreover, you seem to know my spells very well. Are you saying that the quality of my illusions is not strong enough? You actually guessed the spell of Star Wrath at a glance. Gojo Naru, I won't give up just like that. In the front area, Gojo Ming, who was explaining things to Zenin Shinji, suddenly felt a chill. Zenyu and Shen'er, are you going back alone? Gojo Naru, yes, you help me stop Jujutsu, I can go back by myself. Chanyu and Shen'er, now you know that women are not easy to mess with, right? You won't run into any danger if you go back alone, right? Gojo Naruto, you are underestimating the power of Sode no Shirayuki and Ryujinjaka, aren't you? Gojo Naruto patted the 2 samurai swords on his waist. With these 2 Zanpakuto, Gojo Naruto would not take any other enemies seriously unless they were special grade cursed spirits. Zen Temple nodded. In the end, Gojo Naruto chose to run away before Jujutsu came out. It would be better to go back early. A few minutes after Gojo Naru left, Jujutsu left the reception area and revealed his identity to Zenin Shinji. Master Tianyuan's messenger? Do you want to stay in this Wanchaiwu for a while? Zenin Shinji didn't expect that Jujutsu had such an identity. Considering Tenjin's status in the world of sorcery, even the big 3 sorcerer families had to give him enough respect. That's fine, but I can't guarantee when Gojo Naruto will come. Zenin Shinji could see the real purpose of Jujutsu, but he didn't care. It was not his business. He would let Gojo Naru solve the problem of the new resident himself. Just like that, without Gojo Naru's knowledge, the Yorozwaya had a new resident. On the way back, the image of Kyojuyuki would appear from time to time in Gojo Ming's mind. Gojo Naruto still found this future special grade sorcerer very interesting. If he grew up a little, perhaps Jujuyuki would be a good choice as a partner. But now, it is indeed a little too early. Moreover, Yuki Kyojuku's thinking is as eccentric as Gojo Satoru's, and he doesn't want to play with problem children anymore. However, Gojo Naruto also knew that he should improve his relationship with Kyojuku Yuki. After all, she is also the future top combat force in the entire cursed world. When facing Noso and Ryaman Sukuna, Kyojuyuki will also be a very powerful assistant. Let's think about what kind of Zanpakuto to forge for Jujuyuki, and collect the super large experience pack as soon as possible. This way, I can grow faster. The images of many Zanpakuto appeared in Gojo Naruto's mind, and he began to think about which Zanpakuto would be more suitable for Kyojuku Yuki. Hurrying along the way, when he entered an alley that was the only way home, Gojo Ming felt something strange in the air around him. For some reason, Gojo Ming found that his body seemed to become very heavy all of a sudden. Is it Jujuyuki? Is she angry out of shame? The effect of this technique is very similar to Kyojuku Yuki's Star Wrath, but Gojo Naruto reacted immediately. This is not Kyojuku Yuki's Star Fury. Star Fury can only act on Kyojuku Yuki himself and the Shikigami Hounan. Therefore, the reason why I feel my body getting heavier cannot be due to Kyojuku Yuki. There are other enemies. Gojo Naru's expression instantly became serious, and Six Eyes quickly looked around. In the sight of Gojo Naruto's Six Eyes, an inexplicable barrier had appeared around him at some point, and in the corner of the barrier, a figure was locked by Gojo Naruto's Six Eyes. 129. Come out. Gojo Ming looked coldly at the location of the figure and exposed the enemy's disguise. Pa pa pa. Crisp applause rang out, and then a hoarse and charming voice came into Gojo Ming's ears. As expected of you, you are the Six Eyes son of God of the Gojo family. You can see through my position at a glance. You are so perceptive. I was thinking of treating you well first. Now it seems that we have to go straight to the main course. A tall woman with short hair appeared in front of Gojo Ming. When he saw the person in front of him, Gojo Ming just felt that she looked familiar at first, but when he saw the suture line on the woman's forehead, he immediately confirmed the identity of the person in front of him. News. Or rather, Itadori Yuji's mother. Gojo Ming subconsciously took a step back, his eyes full of surprise. He didn't expect that Nojuo would come to find him. Seeing Gojo Naru's actions, Itadori Kaori's mouth corners slightly raised and a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes. Why, Gojo Naru-kun, do you know me? Gojo Ming shook his head. I don't know her, but I didn't expect that the person who trapped me was actually a woman. He is not arrogant enough to directly expose the identity of the Nishuk. I don't have the strength to fight against Luojuo head-on now. If I reveal Luojuo's identity, I will probably attract more attention from him in the future. Gojo Ming knows his advantage, which is that he is familiar with the future development situation and he is in the dark. Therefore, even when facing a noose, he would never easily reveal more information about himself. Itadori Kaori frowned slightly. Oh? Really? She felt that Gojo Naruto seemed to be hiding something, but she really didn't know what Gojo Naruto was thinking. This was the first time she met Gojo Naruto, so Gojo Naruto should not know her identity. So, sister, what's the matter with you stopping me here? I have to hurry home. Gojo Ming moved backwards calmly. The person in front of him is the biggest boss in the entire world, and he is not capable of dealing with him at the moment. If Ryujinjaka can be obedient, perhaps he can still give it a try. However, now Ryujinjaka is just a fire stick, and his body has not yet fully grown, so he will definitely not be a match for the noose in front of him. The best choice now is to run as fast as possible. Looking at Gojo Naru's little movements, Itadori Kaori smiled playfully. Gojo Naru-kun, I just want to borrow something from you, okay? I have no ill will towards you. Gojo Naruto frowned and looked at Itadori Kaori cautiously. What is it? I don't have anything good on me that's worth borrowing, right? Itadori Kaori shook her head. Of course. You are so young now, and you have to carry 2 samurai swords with you. This is a bit too tiring. Can you lend me a sword? Itadori Kaori's gaze stayed on Ryujinjaka. This Zanpakuto contained a powerful technique. Once it was unleashed, it would be an absolute earth-shattering force. Ryujinjaka. Itadori Kaori's words made Gojo Naru's body tremble. He thought that Noso was aware of the possible threat he would pose in the future, so he came to nip him in the bud, but he never imagined that his target was actually his Zanpakuto. Sister, this is just an ordinary samurai sword, nothing special. Gojo Naruto covered it up. Although Nozomi said that he was only targeting his Zanpakuto, Gojo Naruto still did not dare to relax at all. Itadori Kaori's eyes lit up. Ryujinjaka? This sword has a nice name. I like fire very much, so can you lend me this sword? I'll return it to you later. Besides, my sister just likes ordinary samurai swords, so please don't take it too seriously, Gojo Naru-kun. Itadori Kaori showed her determination to obtain her Zanpakuto. This was a Zanpakuto that clearly made her feel threatened, and she absolutely could not let it go easily. As for the potential threat of Gojo Naru, she really didn't take it seriously. In the past many years, she had killed the 6 eyes of the Gojo family before, but 6 eyes could not be killed. Therefore, her murderous intent did not appear to be that strong. If possible, she hoped that Gojo Naruto could cooperate honestly to avoid disrupting her next plan. Realizing Nozomi's determination, Gojo Naruto was also making a choice in his mind. Because of the existence of the system, even if Ryujinjaka was taken away by Nozomi, Nozomi's strength would not be improved. After all, as long as he wanted, the Ryujinruka in the hands of the Nozomi would only become a real fire stick. However, he absolutely did not want to lose Ryujinjaka unless it was absolutely necessary. After all, he knew the potential of this Zanpakuto, and it was also his trump card to fight against Noso and Ryuman Sukuna in the future. The self with Ryujinjaka and the self without Ryujinjaka are definitely on different levels. Well, since my sister likes it, I am willing to help her. Is it this one? Gojo Ming grasped the hilt of the sword and drew out Ryujinjaka. Itadori Kaori's eyes lit up and she nodded, this is it. She was a little surprised to see Gojo Naruto being so tactful, but the next second, Gojo Naruto swung the Ryujinjaka in his hand and chopped back fiercely. There's really no need to struggle. Gojo Naruto-kun, I've been observing you for a long time. You haven't been able to use the technique of this Ryujinjaka yet. The sharpness of this Zanpakuto alone cannot break my barrier. Seeing that Gojo Naruto was still fighting stubbornly, Itadori Kaori also knew that Ryujinjaka was not so easy to obtain. Gojo Naru-kun, this barrier is invisible to others. I designed it. It is an advanced version of the tent. Not only is it invisible to ordinary humans, but even sorcerers cannot detect it. Unless there is a sorcerer who is willing to spend a lot of magic power to explore this place, otherwise, you and I will never be discovered. I know you want to delay time, but are you sure you want to continue struggling and wasting each other's time under this situation? After hearing Nozomi's explanation about the barrier, Gojo Ming's heart skipped a beat. Just as Nozomi said, even someone as strong as flowing blade like fire would not be able to break this barrier. 10 minutes is enough for me to kill you 100 times. So, let's save some time and effort, okay? Itadori Kaori revealed the existence time of the barrier, which is the weakness of the barrier, but she didn't care at all. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 130, A Request for Help from the Swordsmith. In Itadori Kaori's eyes, Gojo Naruto had no power to resist at all. He only relied on the power of his other Zanpakuto, so Shirayuki, and was not afraid at all. However, to her surprise, Gojo Ming's eyes suddenly lit up after hearing that the barrier would only exist for 10 minutes. "You're not really expecting someone to come here, are you? If you think so, aren't you being too disrespectful to my strength?" Itadori Kaori narrowed her eyes slightly. She had already seen through Gojo Naru's thoughts. Since words of persuasion didn't work, then she would have to use force directly. She took a step towards Gojo Naruto. Until this moment, Itadori Kaori thought that everything was going as she planned. However, what she didn't know was that although this barrier could block out sound and sight, making it difficult for people to detect him, Gojo Ming was not an ordinary person. If you just use the same method to deal with ordinary sorcerers to deal with him, you will suffer a great loss. At the moment when Ryujinjaka failed to break the barrier, Gojo Naruto had already used the system's function to send a message to every person who borrowed the sword through his Zanpakuto. The swordsmith is in danger, location coordinates. Itadori Kaori could never have imagined that at this moment, the Gojo family, the Yajiwa family, and the sword borrowers from the Yorozwaya had all received the information and location passed on by Gojo Naruto. The five family. Gojo Satoru, who was in retreat, heard the message from Senbonzakura, his expression changed and he rushed out of the retreat room. The person who came towards him was Gojo Shunichi, who also had a serious expression. "Shinyi, did you receive the message too?" "Master Wu, yes." The two looked at each other, and Gojo Satoru gave the order directly, "Shunichi, you go find the head of the family and the agent, I will go to the location to find Ming." Gojo Shunichi felt that he shouldn't let Gojo Satoru go out alone, but he couldn't care less now. "Master Wu, you have to be careful too." Gojo Satoru nodded, and disappeared directly in front of Gojo Shunichi. During the period of seclusion, he had already mastered the basic technique of Shunzuan Kang, and paid special attention to Kang's movement skills. "Ming, wait for me for a moment, I'll be there soon." The Yajiwa family. Yajiwa Simon brought Suzu and knocked on Yajiwa Hidesugu's door. "What's wrong? What happened?" Yajiwa Hidesugu looked confused, but Yajiwa Simon had no time to explain anything. "Follow me, Hidesugu. Master Gojo Naruto is in danger." The moment the voice fell, Yajiwa Simon had disappeared in front of Yajiwa Hidesugu. Upon hearing this, Yajiwa Hidesugu's face changed drastically, and he directly used the technique to follow Yajiwa Simon. Gojo Naru is the current treasure of the Gojo family. If anything goes wrong with him, the entire world of sorcery will probably be in turmoil. The two first-level sorcerers from the Yajiwa family are rushing to the corresponding location. In the Yorozwaya, Zenin Shinji, who was communicating with Kyojuku Yuki, froze, and then a strong murderous aura shot out from his eyes. Juju Yuki, who was standing opposite him, only felt a powerful aura pressing towards him. She summoned the Phoenix Will immediately. She felt that Chanyu and Shen'er seemed to want to attack her, and her life was under severe threat. "You will die if you don't fight back." However, all this was just Juju Yuki's illusion, and Zenin Shinji did not attack her. The murderous intent she felt was not directed at herself. Gojo Naru is in danger. Chanyu and Shen'er just threw down these words and disappeared directly into the Wanchaiwu. After hearing the news, Kyoju Yuki's expression changed, and he directly urged his magic power to catch up with Zenin Shinji. She didn't know why Zenin Shinji knew about this situation, but since it was related to Gojo Naru, she absolutely could not stand idly by. The three forces are quickly gathering towards the barrier. Gojo Naruto knew their movements through the vision of his Zanpakuto, and also determined his next strategy. I am currently unable to defeat the noose, so I just need to delay it until everyone arrives. As long as Chanyu and Shen'er can arrive at the scene, then Luojuo should completely give up this robbery. After all, with the current strength of Chanyuan and Huishan Quangu, the noose that controls Tiger Ma may not be able to determine the winner in the short term. So, at the same time Itadori Kaori walked towards her, Gojo Naruto had already drawn out Sode no Shirayuki, and at the moment of drawing the sword, Sode no Shirayuki had already completed the Shikai. The pure white blade exudes extreme chill. Gojo Ming waved Sode Shirayuki and drew a circle directly using the barrier as a line. First dance, Moon White. Gojo Naruto used all his strength to activate Sode no Shirayuki, even wrapping himself in it, just to try to freeze the noose for a few seconds. The breath of ice gushed out from the circle on the ground, directly filling the entire barrier. In an instant, the noose that was walking towards Gojo Naru and Gojo Naru himself were directly surrounded by ice. Gojo Ming did not make any defense. His only wish was that Uebai could hold on a little longer. However, it is obvious that this is Gojo Ming's delusion. Uebai's power is nothing compared to Itadori Kaori, and she can't even put a dent in her. At the moment when Uebai froze the entire barrier, Itadori Kaori had already used her own technique, anti-gravity mechanism. When the technique is performed in the forward direction, Itadori Kaori's ability becomes anti-gravity. The moment the moonlight created by Sode Shirayuki touched Itadori Kaori, the ice instantly floated and began to condense from the top of the barrier as if it were weightless. Uebai cannot threaten Itadori Kaori. Seeing this, Gojo sighed. However, he had expected this in his heart. Uebai was only Sode Shirayuki's most basic technique. If Uebai alone could stop the noose, then the noose would not deserve to be called a hidden boss. Gojo Naru-kun, I advise you not to resist any longer. You still have a move called Bailan, right? You don't have to waste your energy on it. Kaori Itadori's face was full of calmness. She controlled gravity and was like a god in this barrier. However, giving up is not in Gojo Naruto's character. The second dance, White Ripples. The white snow waterfall of Gojo Ming has gushed out. And just as Itadori Kaori said, although the white ripples are extremely powerful, under the influence of anti-gravity, this huge snow waterfall cannot touch Itadori Kaori at all. Itadori Kaori smiled slightly. Although these two large-scale ice spells were powerful, they posed no threat to her at all. But in the snow waterfall, a little bit of cold light suddenly flashed. Behind the white snow waterfall, there was actually Gojo Ming's close attack hidden. Chapter 131, Technique, Anti-Gravity Mechanism. Gojo Naru's speed was extremely fast, but Itadori Kaori still did not take it seriously. If he wants to stab himself, with Gojo Naruto's current speed, he will need to practice for at least several decades. Under the influence of the techniques forward rotation and anti-gravity, Gojo Naru's body began to become unstable when he approached Itadori Kaori. When Gojo Naruto lost his balance due to anti-gravity, Itadori Kaori prepared to defeat him with one strike. But the next second, she suddenly felt an inexplicable crisis. Gojo Naruto's body was clearly out of control and Sode no Shirayuki was also very far away from him, so why did he feel the danger? Itadori Kaori wanted to continue attacking, but the sense of crisis made her choose to believe in herself. She quickly retracted her fist and took a step back. At the same time, she finally saw Gojo Naruto's attack that made her feel threatened. Ritual, 3 dances, White Sword. Gojo Naru's Sode Shirayuki suddenly became twice as long. At this distance, if Itadori Kaori didn't dodge, she would definitely be stabbed by Sode Shirayuki. Seeing Itadori Kaori dodge, Gojo Naru's expression was a little regretful. In this wave of attacks just now, he not only used the 3 dances White Sword, but he also lowered his body temperature to -18 degrees Celsius and used the technique -18 degrees. As long as the noose can be pierced, the frozen blood will definitely slow down the speed of the noose. But, unfortunately, even though it was the first time he saw the white sword, Nozomi still managed to dodge it successfully. Facing the sudden increase in the length of Shirayuki's sword and the chill emanating from Gojo Naru, Itadori Kaori frowned slightly. She didn't expect that Sode no Shirayuki had other techniques. Moreover, this technique could actually make her feel a little threatened. She suddenly felt that the Zanpakuto forged by Gojo Naru seemed to have greater potential. Since there is a new technique that I don't know about, will this Sode no Shirayuki have other techniques? Although 4 techniques are already very outrageous, Gojo Naru seems to have another trump card. Itadori Kaori never thought that Gojo Naru could be so calm when facing her. After all, the person in front of him was just a 6-year-old boy, and the difference in strength between them could be seen at a glance. Now, this young man actually took the initiative to attack him, which means that Gojo Ming has other confidence. Itadori Kaori felt that she should deal with it seriously. If she was too casual, she suspected that she might fail because of this boy. Under the influence of the anti-gravity technique, Gojo Ming barely managed to stand. As expected of the body that was hit by the noose, this technique was indeed invincible. Now it was just the forward rotation of the technique. Gojo Ming remembered that the noose could use the anti-gravity mechanism to reverse the technique. He is also one of the only 2 people in the entire world line who can use the technique reversal besides Gojo Satoru. The reversal technique has not been used yet, which is probably because Nozomi doesn't take himself seriously enough. However, Gojo Ming thought this was a good idea. If he could hold on for another 2 minutes, the nearest Yajiyoshi-mon would arrive, Gojo Satoru would arrive in about 3 minutes, and Zenin Shinji would arrive within 5 minutes. As long as he could hold on for 5 minutes, if he didn't want to be completely exposed, he would have no choice but to retreat. However, just as Gojo Naru was thinking about the support issue, Itadori Kaori had already put away her contempt for Gojo Naru. Spell reversal, gravity. The technique reversal that Gojo Naru was thinking about just now was directly used by Itadori Kaori. The gravity within the barrier suddenly increased several times. Gojo Ming only felt that his body suddenly became much heavier, and his movements became slower. Gojo Naru-kun, your Zanpakuto really gave me a big surprise, which also proves that you are worthy of my attention. So, to show my respect for you, I will show you what a spell reversal is. There was a smile in Kaori Itadori's eyes. As the only person who could use the reversal technique, she had enough capital to be proud of. However, to her surprise, Gojo Ming's reaction was too calm. Forget it, you are still young and don't know the power of the spell reversal. I don't blame you. Itadori Kaori shrugged, thinking that Gojo Naru was ignorant. Unfortunately, what she didn't know was that Gojo Naru already knew this trick. Therefore, the moment he realized that the gravity had doubled, he had already used the technique of -50 degrees Celsius. In the previous moment, all the moisture inside the entire surface of the ground was frozen, and he also used the coldness of the condensed moisture to stand. Itadori Kaori wanted to continue approaching Gojo Naru, but the ground suddenly shook violently. Earthquake. Itadori Kaori stood firm. She didn't expect an earthquake to happen at this time. Although Japan is a country prone to earthquakes, this wave of earthquakes just now was too sudden, wasn't it? Itadori Kaori didn't care too much about the vibration that just came. However, as she continued to walk, the entire ground began to shake again. When she stopped, the ground stopped at the same time. It seemed as if this earthquake was following her footsteps. After discovering this situation, how could Itadori Kaori not guess that this strange phenomenon came from Gojo Naru? Itadori Kaori shook her head and stamped her feet. Under the influence of gravity, the originally solid ground was directly crushed by it, and the ice silk condensed on the surface appeared in Itadori Kaori's eyes. I see. The vibration just now came from these ice silks, right? I didn't expect that a Zanpakuto would have so many strange techniques. Is this Sode no Shirayuki? There was a glimmer of madness in her eyes. If you have any other techniques, use them, Gojo Naru-kun. I want to let you see what true despair is. Gojo Naru looked regretful. Sister, Sode no Shirayuki's techniques are no longer available. I didn't expect you to be so strong that you could force Sode no Shirayuki to use so many techniques. I'm really curious about your identity, sister. Gojo Ming felt a little uncomfortable with his disguise, but for the ultimate victory and to tip the balance of power, he had to commit a deception that went against his character. Is that so, Gojo Naru-kun? You are already very good. As long as you give me Ryujin Jaka, you will gain my friendship. Hearing the tone of submission in Gojo Naru's words, Itadori Kaori's eyes flashed with satisfaction. In her opinion, Gojo Naru had run out of ammunition and food, and had made all the efforts, and finally chose to accept this ending. Chapter 132, The domain expands, and the Taizang are everywhere. Sister, you are so strong. I am lucky to have your friendship. In your hands, Ryujin Jaka should be able to show its true power. Gojo Ming sighed, with regret and reluctance showing on his face, and drew out Ryujin Jaka once again. Feeling that the ice in the ground had melted and seeing that Sode no Shirayuki had returned to her sheath, Itadori Kaori thought that Gojo Naru had given up. Her mood was slightly relaxed at this time, and she walked straight to Gojo Naruto, ready to take the Ryujin Jaka. However, the moment she stretched out her hand, she felt a sudden fluctuation of magical power all around her. Yagyo Simon and Yagyo Hidesugu. Why did they appear here? Moreover, they landed directly and accurately around the barrier. Is Master Gojo Naruto here? Why can't I see any trace of him? Yagyo Hidesugu was extremely anxious. Twisting the flowers told me that it was right here. Yagyo Simon was also anxious, but there was no point in being anxious now, so he could only search carefully. Inside the barrier. Subscribe to Chinese novel audio wave. Hearing what Yagyo Simon said, Itadori Kaori's expression changed. The two people from the Yagyo family were attracted by Gojo Naru. What Tsunika told Yagyo Simon was the first time she knew that Zanpakuto actually had the ability to transmit information. Gojo Ming did not give in at all. Since he was able to pass the information to Yagyo Simon through the twisting flower, then Gojo Satoru, who owns the Senbonzakura of the Gojo family, and Gojo Shunichi, who owns the Kiyomusha, should have also received it. Likewise, it is impossible that Huatian Kuangu did not pass the information here to Zen Temple Shenur. In other words, at present, the strong men from the Gojo family, the Yagyo family and the Zenin family are already gathering here. A fierce light flashed in Itadori Kaori's eyes, and she knew that she was tricked by Gojo Naruto. In a flash, she jumped back. Gojo Naruto wouldn't be so obedient as to hand over Ryujin Jaka to him. There must be something fishy going on. Once again, Kaori Itadori's intuition helped her avoid a crisis. Gojo Naru didn't expect that it was the person he asked for help who arrived and let Itadori Kaori know the trap she had designed. Because he is not the master of the barrier, Gojo Naruto has no idea what is happening outside the barrier. He also doesn't know that Yagyo Simon and Yagyo Hidesugu coincidentally appeared outside the barrier when he was deceiving Itadori Kaori, and talked about information about twisting flowers. Even if he knew, Gojo Ming could only sigh that everything was too coincidental. As Itadori Kaori jumped back, Gojo Naruto swung Sode Shirayuki and delivered the final slash. Absolute zero. The temperature around Gojo Ming at this time dropped to absolute zero, minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. In this case, the body of the enemy hit would be frozen instantly. As long as Itadori Kairi was hit by the absolute zero Sode Shirayuki just now, then the outcome of everything would be decided. But, unfortunately, due to a strange combination of circumstances, Gojo Ming's most important attack missed. At this moment, Gojo Naru, who was in a state of absolute zero, exuded a terrifying coldness all over his body. Even someone as strong as Itadori Kairi could realize that if she got close to Gojo Naru, she would be hurt by this coldness. She didn't know how long Gojo Naru could last in this state. Thinking that the sorcerer from the Gojo family and Zenonjinner were on their way, Itadori Kairi realized that she could not delay any longer. If Gojo Ming could hold on for a few minutes, her barrier would be discovered. Itadori Kairi's expression became extremely serious. Gojo Naru-kun, you really surprised me. You were able to force me to use the domain expansion. He was seen stretching out his hands and making seals in front of his chest. Looking at this scene, Gojo Ming, whose body temperature was gradually recovering, felt a sense of surprise. He could only hold on for 4 seconds in the state of absolute zero. If he had waited a few more seconds, he would have been able to break free from the absolute zero. And, most importantly, the release of absolute zero must be done gradually, otherwise it will harm the body. Now because of the absolute zero, Itadori Kairi has used her domain, which has forced Nozomi to reveal a trump card. Once the field is unfolded, this barrier should be able to be observed. After all, the power of the domain is absolutely extraordinary. As if guessing what Gojo Naru was thinking, Itadori Kairi smiled disdainfully. Gojo Naru-kun, don't dream. Even if all your supporters arrive, they won't be able to break through before the barrier is automatically lifted. This transformation barrier can be integrated into the domain of the caster. Even if I use the domain to make the barrier observable, the person you seek help from will not be able to break the domain that is integrated with my barrier. Gojo Naru-kun, I'm angry. So, I will take away Ryujinjaka, and I will also take away your life and body. And the people you ask for help, whether it's Gojo Satoru or Zenonshiji, they will all watch you die in my hands outside. The smile on Itadori Kairi's face turned into a grim smile. She didn't want to do this, but Gojo Naru brought all of this upon herself. Being forced to this point by a 6-year-old boy was already a shame for Nozomi, who was good at setting up traps. The territory is expanding, and the fetus is everywhere. Outside the barrier, Zenon, who was moving at full speed, arrived even earlier than Gojo Satoru. Looking at Yagyo Simon and Yagyo Hidesugu who appeared in front of him, Zenon Shinji's expression was very solemn. He knew that the two people in front of him must have come because of Gojo Naru's request for help. Have you found Gojo Naru? Yagyo Simon shook his head. They had only just arrived a short time ago. Before, Yagyo Simon was still wondering if Tsuchika had conveyed the wrong information, but now that he saw Zenon Shinji also appeared here, it meant that there was nothing wrong with the information. Hateful. Zen Yuan-shen frowned. Behind him, Jujutsu finally caught up. After witnessing Zenon Shinji's true speed, Jujutsu finally understood what the body bound by heaven and curse was. Is Gojo Naru in danger? Isn't he there? When Jujutsu saw a young man in a kimono appear in front of her, her eyes lit up. Didn't Zenon Shinobu say that Gojo Naru was in danger? Now he's standing right in front of me. But then, the young man in front of him who looked exactly like Gojo Ming appeared next to Shigeru. Where's Ming? Didn't he go out with you? Why did he get into danger? Gojo Satoru's expression was very gloomy. Chan Yuan-shen shook his head and did not respond, but walked towards the direction of the barrier based on his intuition. He couldn't see where the barrier was, but his absolute perception had already detected something wrong around him. Master Gojo Satoru, the most important thing now is to find Master Gojo Naruto. Yagyu Hidesugu whispered a reminder that Zenin Shinner was the strongest among them, and this was definitely not the time to create conflicts. Chapter 133, The Battle of Zanpakuto's Submission. When he heard Yagyu Hidesugu's address, Jujuyuki realized that the young man in front of him was different from Gojo Naru. This young man possesses cursed powers and techniques. He is another six-eyes son of God in the Gojo family and the twin brother of Gojo Naruto. Apart from their cursed powers, it is impossible to tell the two apart. Of course, the Zanpakuto they wore on their waists were also different. Gojo Satoru calmed himself down and nodded to Yagyu Hidesugu. At the moment, the most important thing is to find Gojo Naruto first. Just as everyone was concentrating on finding Gojo Ming's trace, Zenin Shinner had already relied on his intuition to arrive at the side of the barrier and punched it hard. With just one punch, Jujuyuki and others felt the ground shaking. Then, a translucent barrier appeared in front of everyone. In the originally deserted alley, Gojo Naruto and Itadori Kairi appeared. Ming. The moment Gojo Satoru saw Gojo Ming's figure, he directly released the technique of forward transformation, blue. At this moment, he did not hold back the cursed power in his body at all, and poured all his strength into the barrier. The eyes of Yuki Kyojoku and Hidesugu Yagyu were filled with surprise that Gojo Satoru, who was only 6 years old, actually had such a terrifying reserve of cursed energy. The Gojo family's generation of unbridled magic was shown to outsiders for the first time. As expected of the Gojo family's ancestral technique, this thought emerged in the minds of Kyojoku Yuki and Yagyu Hidesugu. However, the next scene surprised them even more. Even Gojo Satoru's full strength, unlimited power technique attack failed to break the barrier. The entire barrier only shook slightly, and there was no visible damage at all. At the same time, they felt the change in gravity coming from inside the barrier. Just by standing on the edge of the barrier, their bodies seemed to have become twice as heavy. Field. Hidesugu Yagyu's expression changed. He had never expected that the person who attacked Gojo Naruto this time actually mastered the ultimate secret field of the sorcerer. And Jujuyuki looked at the person who was deploying the barrier inside the barrier, his face full of shock. This person was the short-haired dashing woman that he had met before. He had never expected that the ultimate purpose of this person observing Gojo Naruto's fight was to attack Gojo Naruto. Jujuyuki felt that the situation was extremely complicated, but the threat this woman posed to Gojo Naruto was already very obvious. As the domain unfolds, it is difficult for Gojo Ming inside the barrier to survive. Kyojoku Yuki immediately summoned the Phoenix Wheel, ready to assist Gojo Satoru and Zenin Shinji in breaking the barrier, but Yagyu Hidesugu beside her stopped her. Let's not mess around. Make trouble. This was the first time that Jujuyuki was disliked by someone. Her strength was much stronger than the uncle next to her, so how could she be causing trouble? Just as Kyojoku Yuki was about to refute, suddenly, 3 powerful forces shot out from the hands of Zenin Shinji, Gojo Satoru and Yagyu Simon. The flower wind is in turmoil, the flower god is crying. The sky wind is in turmoil, the sky devil is sneering. The flower god is crazy. Let the water and sky roll back. Twist the flowers. Scatter. Senbonzakura. The 3 Zanpakuto completed their shikai at the same time, and the true appearance of the Zanpakuto appeared before Kyojoku Yuki. Amidst the sky full of cherry blossom blades, the double sword Hua Tiankuangu and the long spear Zhehua simultaneously launched attacks on the barrier. Inside the barrier, feeling the attack of Zenin Shinji's punch, Itadori Kairi's expression became more solemn. Fortunately, she had released the domain before, otherwise, the attacks from Zenin Shinji and Gojo Satoru would have been enough to break the barrier. However, even if the barrier is still strong at the moment, after withstanding the next round of Zanpakuto attacks, the barrier will only last a short time. Itadori Kairi knew that she had to quickly obtain Ryujinjaka and then prepare to evacuate. If time goes on, it will be very disadvantageous to her. After expanding the domain and maintaining the barrier, Itadori Kairi no longer took Gojo Naru seriously. Just now, Sode Shirayuki's absolute zero did make her feel a little threatened, but at this time, Gojo Naruto had completely exited that state. In addition, since she was in her own territory, Gojo Naru was already in her pocket. Itadori Kairi raised her right hand and then pressed it down suddenly. Gojo Ming on the opposite side only felt that his whole body was 10 times heavier. If it weren't for his body strengthened by heaven and curse, he even suspected that his bones would be crushed under this gravity. Gojo Naruto knew that this was the ability of Itadori Kairi's domain, similar to Sukuna's indiscriminate slash, manifested as indiscriminate gravity. He also knew that if he couldn't survive Itadori Kairi's domain attack, then everything would be over. Although Zenonjiner and the others were all outside the barrier, it was only a matter of time before the barrier was broken. However, if he couldn't hold on until the end and died at Itadori Kairi's hands before the barrier broke, then even if Itadori Kairi was torn to pieces by Zenonjiner afterwards, it would be meaningless to him. Therefore, in front of Itadori Kairi's territory, Gojo Naruto knew that he could only save himself. In order to survive, Gojo Naruto must block Itadori Kairi's attacks. But, what other cards can I reveal? Kendo. For Kairi Itadori, who can manipulate gravity, it is almost impossible to hit her with my kendo. In vain? Under this unusual gravity, even your movements will be distorted. Unless you can use the power after Ryujin Jaku's Shikai, or complete Sode Shirayuki's Bankai. However, both paths are extremely difficult. But for Gojo Naruto, this is already a desperate situation. No matter how difficult it is, he must break through. Gojo Ming clenched the Sode Shirayuki in his hand, and his heart was as cold as ice. Under extreme gravity conditions, he forced his body to stand upright. Are you really ready? A gentle voice sounded deep in Gojo Naruto's heart. A woman wearing a white kimono, who looked like a Yamato Nadeshiko, appeared in front of Gojo Naru. A gleam of determination flashed in Gojo Ming's eyes. He nodded. The anthropomorphic Sode Shirayuki smiled gently and embraced Gojo Naru in her arms. The whole person merged into Gojo Naruto's body. An extremely dangerous battle broke out in Gojo Ming's consciousness. That was the battle between Gojo Naruto and Sode Shirayuki. A battle that determines whether or not the Zanpakuto can enter a state of submission. A battle that would determine whether Sode Shirayuki could finally complete her Bankai took place in a flash. A battle that would decide Gojo Ming's life or death broke out. If Sode Shirayuki wins, Gojo Ming will die. If Shirayuki is defeated, Gojo Ming will be born. Chapter 134 Bankai, White Haze Punishment. Gojo Naru-kun, please stop resisting. This barrier is strong enough for me to kill you dozens of times. Itadori Kairi walked leisurely to Gojo Naruto and directly pulled out the Ryujin Jaku from his waist. She was still very surprised that Gojo Naruto was able to stand in her own territory. But it doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, she has already got Ryujin Jaku. Gojo Naru, I believe you will feel that your death is worthy of being able to die on the Zanpakuto you forged yourself. Itadori Kairi touched the warm handle of the knife, and a hint of fanaticism flashed in her eyes. This powerful Zanpakuto will belong to you in the future. Just because Gojo Naruto is unable to perform the sword technique doesn't mean she can't. She believes that this Ryujin Jaku will bloom with incomparable colors in her hands. Before that, let's use the blood of the swordsmith Gojo Naruto to sharpen this Ryujin Jaku. Itadori Kairi draws out her Ryujin Jaku and slashes at Gojo Naruto. Everything will end. Ming. Gojo Naru. Gojo Satoru and Zenon Shinji's eyes were filled with rage. The barrier before them was about to be shattered. If they could hold on for a few more seconds, everything would be over. The group of Gojo family sorcerers brought by Gojo Xianjian were also constantly using spells to bombard the barrier. Everyone was trying their best, and they had already seen the gap between Gojo Naruto and Itadori Kairi. With the field unfolding, Gojo Ming, who was only 6 years old, no longer had a chance. Jujutsu looked at Gojo Naru, who was trying to stand inside the barrier, his face full of pity. The Phoenix Wheel continued. She had already opened up the fantasy quality of the technique to the maximum, but it still had no effect on this barrier. Yagyo Simon and Yagyo Hidetsugu looked at the situation inside the barrier, and they were filled with panic. The Zanpakuto Tsunika forged by Gojo Naru for the Yagyo family can be said to have helped the Yagyo family gain a firm foothold in the world of sorcery. If such a person died in front of them, the two really didn't know how to face the Gojo family. Gojo Kumamoto watched everything at the scene in silence. Although the Gojo family had many sorcerers, when they really encountered a strong man, they could basically only act as cannon fodder. With such a large number of sorcerers, even the future of the Gojo family cannot be saved. Gojo Shun held the insect cleaner in one hand, and the red locust was ready, but it was too late in time. Gojo Satoru looked at the crisis of Gojo Ming within the barrier, his eyes were about to burst into tears, and a faint trace of blood was already flowing from the corners of his eyes. The unlimited technique and the Senbonzakura were almost drained by it. Chanyu and Shenner had fallen into madness at this time, and Huishan Quangu had been used as a hatchet by him, chopping at the noose barrier continuously at a speed that ordinary people could not even see clearly. The barrier was already shaky under the attacks of everyone and could break at any time, but it was all too late. Itadori Kairi inside the barrier has already drawn her Zanpakuto Ryujinjaka. It will all be over. Gojo Naru-kun, it's over. A cold light flashed on the blade of Ryujinjaka, and Gojo Naruto was about to be beheaded by Itadori Kairi. The faces of the people outside the barrier were filled with despair. Dying at the hands of the Zanpakuto he forged himself, what a tragic ending. Many sorcerers of the Gojo family had subconsciously closed their eyes. They did not dare to watch the scene of Gojo Ming being beheaded. But just as the flowing blade Jaka was about to pass through Gojo Ming's neck, a voice as cold as 1,000-year-old ice rang in everyone's ears. Bankai. Gojo Satoru, Zenin Shinji, Gojo Shunichi and Yagyo Zaman all subconsciously looked at Gojo Ming inside the barrier. They all knew about the existence of Bankai, but none of them had ever seen it. Suddenly hearing the word Bankai, a glimmer of hope ignited in everyone's heart. Bai Xia punishment. Gojo Ming coldly shouted out the 3 words Bai Xia Fa. The moment the voice fell, everyone shuddered subconsciously. They only felt the temperature in the air drop instantly. In just a blink of an eye, Gojo Ming within the barrier completely changed into another appearance. At this time, the light blue kimono on Gojo Naruto's body turned completely white, as if the whole person was covered with a layer of frost. The originally pure white Sode Shirayuki also turned transparent, like a transparent ice blade. This is Sode no Shirayuki's Bankai. This sentence appeared in the minds of all those who borrowed the Zanpakuto. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. This is also the first time that Zanpakuto's Bankai appears in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. Inside the barrier. When Itadori Kairi heard the word Bai Xia Fa, her expression changed instantly. She had never expected that, in this situation, Gojo Naru's Sode Shirayuki still possessed an unexposed technique. What kind of power is hidden in this technique that can change the appearance of Gojo Naruto? Itadori Kairi clearly felt the threat from Sode no Shirayuki, but she still did not retreat. The opportunity to kill Gojo Naruto is right in front of her, she absolutely cannot let it go. This time, she has completely become an enemy of Gojo Naruto. If she does not completely kill the Six-Eyes Son of God of the Gojo family, then her future plans will definitely be affected by Gojo Naruto. If he takes just one more step, Gojo Ming will have his head chopped off by himself. With the sharpness of Ryujinjaka, Gojo Naru's body would definitely not be able to withstand it. However, she was very worried whether this so-called Bakusia punishment would have other effects. However, Itadori Kaori also has confidence that under the influence of the gravity of her own domain and the sharpness of Ryujinjaka, even if Gojo Naruto has a trump card, it will be too late for him to open it. Just as Ryujinjaka was about to slash across Gojo Naru's neck, Gojo Naru and Itadori Kaori looked at each other. With just one glance, Itadori Kaori felt a chill from the depths of her soul. It was a lifeless coldness, as if everything in time was equal in the face of this coldness. Clang! The flowing blade hit an ice knife. At the most critical moment, Sode Shirayuki blocked Ryujinjaka. Although Sode Shirayuki and Ryujinjaka are not at the same level, at this time Sode Shirayuki has already completed her Bankai, while Ryujinjaka's Shikai is still on the surface, so Ryujinjaka actually fell into a disadvantage in the fight with Sode Shirayuki. Seeing this, Itadori Kaori's expression changed and she wanted to pull back Ryujinjaka. Her sixth sense told her that she could no longer kill Gojo Naruto. Stop while you're ahead. Now that the Zanpakuto Ryujinjaka is already in hand, there is no need to worry about Gojo Naru for the time being. Anyway, as long as she masters the technique of Ryujinjaka, this Zanpakuto will definitely be stronger than the Sode no Shirayuki in Gojo Naruto's hand. However, what Itadori Kaori didn't know was that from the moment Gojo Naru completed her Bankai, all of this would no longer be in accordance with her wishes. Chapter 135 Itadori Kaori, I will remember you. The moment Ryujinjaka touched Sode no Shirayuki, the blade was covered with a layer of frost and was actually frozen in mid-air. It was not until this moment that Kaori Itadori realized that her entire realm was filled with extreme cold. At some point, a large disc-shaped piece of pure white cold air appeared in the sky above her territory. Then a beam of cold air shot out from the ground, piercing through the sky. At the same time, cold air suddenly began to surge and dance on the ground like a giant wave. Cannot touch. Absolutely cannot touch. Itadori Kaori felt the absolute threat in this cold air. If I were to touch this cold air, I would really die. Sister, you should run away. This enchantment is the most suitable place for Bakusia Fa's cold energy. If you still covet the flowing blade Ruohuo, then you can also try to get in touch with Bakusia Fa's cold energy. This cold air will freeze everything within the attack range. Everything touched by the cold air will be frozen all over, and eventually wither and shatter like shattered ice. Gojo Ming explained calmly. Itadori Kaori frowned, she could feel that Gojo Naruto was not lying to her. The threat of this cold air is indeed very deadly. However, she could not accept at all that she had to give up the Ryujinjaka. Wasn't it all for this Ryujinjaka that I worked so hard to set up the barrier, make arrangements, and even expose my identity? Itadori Kaori wanted to try to take back Ryujinjaka again, but the cold air of Bakusia Fa seemed to have life and rushed towards her. In a few seconds, you won't have a chance. A confident smile appeared on Gojo Naruto's face, and under the external attack, cracks began to appear in the barrier that was fused with Itadori Kaori's Teizu's field. Itadori Kaori's gaze kept wandering between Ryujinjaka and Gojo Naru, who were frozen in mid-air, and her expression kept changing. Finally, she gritted her teeth and made up her mind. She decided that it was best to run away. Her current Bankai Zanpakuto had already made her feel the crisis. If Zenin Shinji, Yagyo Simon and others joined Gojo Naru, then she would not be able to retreat smoothly without leaving something behind. As the barrier shattered, Itadori Kaori completely retracted her own territory. The moment the barrier shattered, a powerful cursed force erupted. Under the cover of this surging cursed force, she disappeared on the spot. Itadori Kaori chose to evacuate. But just as the barrier collapsed and she evacuated, she finally realized that Gojo Naru was actually weak. His own barrier was also a barrier to trap the cold air. The moment the barrier was broken, the cold air began to overflow. If he persists a little longer, Gojo Naruto's condition will end on its own. She realized that this cold energy would attack everyone except Gojo Naruto herself. Once the barrier is broken, Gojo Naruto will also release his Bankai in order to protect others. In this case, I still have a chance. But, unfortunately, he made the wrong choice and could only watch Gojo Naru unleash the technique before being surrounded by Zenin Shinji, Gojo Satoru and others. Gojo Naru, I will remember you. Itadori Kaori's figure moved quickly and disappeared from everyone's sight, and the cold air that was originally protecting Gojo Naruto became an obstacle that affected everyone's pursuit. It's over. A hint of relief appeared on Gojo Ming's face. The state of Baekseofar really exhausted his last bit of physical strength. If Itadori Kaori had not chosen to leave just now, then he really would not have been able to hold on. Gojo Ming was exhausted and fell directly into Zenin Shinju's arms. No one knew the identity of the attacker, but they all knew how powerful this man was. After all, no one at the scene has a domain. The only two who have the potential to awaken their realms are Yuki Kyojoku, who will become special grade sorcerers in the future, and Gojo Satoru. Although the attacker escaped, everyone witnessed Gojo Naruto's true strength. After truly witnessing the Zanpakuto's Bankai, he realized that it could actually compete with the sorcerer's ultimate means. The five bear flames felt the biting cold all around them and looked at the strange phenomenon that changed the weather color. They were shocked beyond compare. When he saw Ryujinjaka's sky-high pillar of fire that was powerful enough to change the sky, Gojo Kuma thought that this Zanpakuto must be unique, right? Now that he saw Sode no Shirayuki's Bankai technique, he realized that he had still underestimated the true power of his Zanpakuto. At least in that state just now, Sode Shirayuki's power is not inferior to Ryujinjaka, right? Gojo Kumamoto was not clear about the difference between Bankai and Shikai, but he could tell the strength of the technique. The potential of Zanpakuto is too great. At this moment, he was extremely grateful in his heart that Gojo Naruto had held on to the end and survived the attacker who possessed a domain. Hidesugu Yajiyo and Simon Chako Yajiyo came out with a sip of spirit. Yajiyo Hidesugu was shocked by the power of Gojo Naru's Hakukusia punishment, and was also very glad that Gojo Naru did not die, so that the world of sorcery could avoid turmoil. Yajiyo Simon's attention was more focused on Gojo Naru's Bankai. Is this Sode no Shirayuki's Bankai? As young master Gojo Naruto said, the Zanpakuto after Bankai is its final form. Isn't it possible that Sode no Shirayuki in Bankai state is already far superior to a first-level sorcerer? In the current world of sorcery where there is a vacancy for special ranks, a first-level sorcerer is already considered the top combat force in the entire sorcery world. The fact that Sode no Shirayuki was able to break through this limit after her Bankai was enough to prove that the influence of Zanpakuto on the entire world of sorcery has not yet reached its limit. If when the Tsuzuru in my hand completes Bankai, when the Kiyomushi in Gojo Shinika's hand completes Bankai, when? In that case, their strength will definitely be raised to a higher level than it is now. A hint of heat flashed in Yajiyozamon's eyes. He also wants to work hard to complete his Bankai, he wants to see the true power of Twisted Flower, and he wants to climb to the pinnacle of the world of sorcery. Gojo Shunichi put away the insect and stood silently beside Zenin Shinju, guarding the unconscious Gojo Ming. He was shocked by the power of Bankai, but he blamed himself more for failing to protect Gojo Naru. Obviously, protecting Gojo Naruto should be his first responsibility. If I stay by Gojo Naru's side, even if I can't defeat that strange woman, I can at least buy Gojo Naru some time to escape. This time it was Gojo Naru who mastered Bankai and drove away the enemy with his own strength. All of this was so dangerous. If anything went wrong, Gojo Ming might be a corpse by now. Gojo Shinika's heart was filled with blame for himself, and at the same time he made up his mind that in the future he must do a good job of protecting Gojo Ming. This was the first time Gojo Naru was attacked. Likewise, Gojo Shunichi will guarantee that this is the last time. Chapter 136 Bankai, must be achieved. The sharp cherry blossom blades scattered in the air gathered around Gojo Satoru and condensed into the 1,000 sakura in Gojo Satoru's hands. Facing Sode no Shirayuki's Bankai, Senbonzakura seemed to be in a somewhat abnormal mood. Gojo Satoru can feel Senbonzakura's yearning for Bankai. He stared blankly at Gojo Ming, who was lying in the arms of Zanayuan Shenner with a pale face, and his heart was filled with complicated feelings. He was glad that Gojo Naru successfully mastered Bankai at the most critical moment and eliminated the crisis this time. The power of Bai Xiaofa just now could be described as terrifying. If anyone was even touched by the cold air, they would probably be frozen to pieces. The power of Bankai shocked even him who possessed 6 eyes. Similarly, Gojo Satoru's heart is full of entanglements. Originally, after finishing his retreat, he successfully mastered the technique of forward, Kang that even Gojo Naruto envied. He thought that after possessing Kang, his strength would surpass Gojo Ming, but he never expected that in front of Bai Xiaofa's strength, he seemed to be still weaker. At least, in Gojo Satoru's opinion, he who possesses the technique of Shunzhuan Kang cannot defeat the woman with the domain just now, and similarly, he cannot avoid Bai Xiaofa's attack. Is the technique that he has mastered, forward transformation, blue, really worthy of the envy of Gojo Naruto? Gojo Satoru has already mastered the basics of the Gojo family's unlimited techniques. With the technique of forward, blue, Gojo Satoru has surpassed most sorcerers in overall strength. However, Gojo Satoru was not satisfied at all. I am still too weak now? I absolutely cannot be like this. I absolutely cannot continue to be mediocre. Because of the appearance of Gojo Naru, Gojo Satoru had witnessed the top existence in the entire sorcery world at the age of 6. He no longer had the arrogance of the 6-eyed son of God of the Gojo family. If people from other families knew what Gojo Satoru was thinking, and knew that he considered himself mediocre, they would probably think that the 6-eyed son of God of the Gojo family was mentally abnormal, right? The unlimited technique is not enough to protect Ming, all this is not enough. Such a thought emerged in Gojo Satoru's mind. The unlimited technique is very powerful, but I am currently unable to master all of its techniques. Currently, he can only master the forward rotation of the unlimited technique, and he still has no idea about the reverse rotation of the technique in the family records. If Gojo Naru had not been attacked, Gojo Satoru might not have been in such a pressing situation. Now, seeing the gap between himself and Itadori Kaori, and the gap between himself and Zenin Shinji, Gojo Satoru's desire to become stronger is extremely strong. At present, the only thing that can make it even more powerful and still have traces to follow is the Bankai of the Zanpakuto Senbonzakura. Gojo Satoru knew that his Bankai of Senbonzakura would definitely not be inferior to Sode no Shirayuki's Hakuka Kakashi. With Senbonzakura's Bankai, he should be able to fight against the strange woman who just attacked Gojo Naruto. You must master Bankai. Gojo Satoru made up his mind at this moment that only by mastering Bankai could he not be left too far behind by Gojo Naruto. Zenin Shinner looked at Gojo Ming, who was lying in his arms with a pale face, and his heart was very calm. He has memorized the face of the woman just now. If this person appears in front of him in the future, he will get rid of this woman immediately. The body strengthened by Tianyuzubin is extremely strong, but in the face of certain specific spells, pure physical strength is still too simple. Just like just now, if his power could be stronger and he could break the barrier faster, perhaps Gojo Naruto would not have been in a situation where he was almost beheaded by Ryujinjaka. Before this battle, Chanyuan Shenner had absolute confidence in his body. Even a powerful sorcerer would be like a chicken or a dog in front of him and not worth mentioning. However, after seeing himself powerless in front of the barrier, Zenin Shinji realized that pure physical strength was powerless in the face of a spell that had been set up in advance. The technique after Katen Kyokotsu's initial release is more suitable for one-on-one combat. Now that I have Hua Tian Kuang Bone, I should also add more ways of attack. The Zen temple even began to reflect on itself. He still relied too much on past experience and did not try to integrate Hua Tian Kuanggu into the battle. The technique of Hua Tian Kuanggu was so strange. Wasn't it a waste of Hua Tian Kuanggu to treat and use it like this? This time, Gojo Naru relied on Sode no Shirayuki's Bankai Hakuxia penalty to fight for a glimmer of hope. Bai Xiaofa's power is so strong that it can threaten everyone present. This kind of power is absolutely extraordinary. Chan Yu and Shen'er believed that the Huaishan Kuanggu in his hand was not inferior to Xiu Beixiu. Master Bankai as soon as possible. We need to enrich our fighting methods. Watching the Zanpakuto in the hands of Zenin Shinji, Gojo Satoru and others begin to change and return to their plain and simple appearance, Kyojoku Yuki witnessed the magic of Zanpakuto for the first time. She could understand why the world of curse art said that the emergence of Zanpakuto would change the entire world. Zanpakuto has transcended material existence and possesses the ability to completely violate the rules of the world. Transform from an ordinary Zanpakuto into a sky full of cherry blossom blades? Transformed from an ordinary Zanpakuto into 2 black broadswords? Transform from an ordinary Zanpakuto into a slender long halberd? It transforms from an ordinary Zanpakuto into a transparent ice blade, and even the user's clothing and appearance change as a result. Jujutsu had a hard time understanding what kind of rules the Zanpakuto forged by Gojo Naru followed. She finally realized why Lord Tianyuan was interested in Gojo Naru. The existence of Gojo Naru is a complete anomaly in the entire world of sorcery. Even though he was very confident in his own strength, Jujutsu knew that he would die if he faced Gojo Naru, who was in the state of Baixia penalty just now. The power of ice and frost has surpassed the limits of the world, and seems to have surpassed the essence of ice and frost and mastered the rules of the world. It's hard to imagine that this was used by a boy who was only 6 years old. Moreover, Gojo Naru used this so-called Bankai to defeat a truly powerful person at the top of the world of sorcery who possessed a domain. This is the power of Zanpakuto, and also the power of Gojo Naru. Kyojoku Yuki looked at Sode no Shirayuki, which had turned into an ordinary samurai sword in Gojo Naruto's hand, and at Ryujin Jaka, which fell beside it, and a guess began to arise in his mind. If Ryujin Jaka can also achieve this so-called Bankai, how terrifying will this Zanpakuto be? The Zanpakuto that was worth the powerful woman's special effort to snatch must have potential that is definitely beyond the imagination of outsiders. Perhaps, it would be nice if Gojo Naru could help me forge a Zanpakuto. Jujutsu became even more curious about the young boyfriend in front of her. This young man who can attract Tianyuan, this young man who can make her heart beat, is worth her spending more time and energy on. At this moment, Yuki Kyojoku made up her mind that she wanted to get to know Gojo Naru more deeply, to understand this boy with 6 eyes who would definitely change the whole world in the future. Chapter 137 Zenin Shin'er, bringing Gojo Naru back home. Zenin Shin'er picked up Gojo Naru and turned around to leave. Shen-er, where are you going? Gojo Xianjian called out to Zenin Shin'er, but Zenin Shin'er did not turn towards the Gojo family. Go home. Zenyuan Shen'er's voice was very cold. You're going the wrong direction. Ming needs to go back to the Gojo household to recuperate. Gojo Xianjian's tone was very serious. I will take him to his home. The Gojo family is no longer strong enough to protect him. Zenyuan Shen'er told the truth that Gojo Xianjian was unwilling to admit, but which was extremely heartbreaking. With the current strength of the Gojo family, if they were attacked again by the woman just now, they would still be unable to stop her. Currently, none of the Gojo family is able to expand their territory. The truly top fighting forces were only 6-year-old Gojo Naru and Gojo Satoru. He originally wanted to stop Zenin Shin'er from taking Gojo Naru away, but after hearing what Zenin Shin'er said, Gojo Kumaen had already realized that the Gojo family was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Although, with the blessing of Gojo Naruto's Zanpakuto, the Gojo family has a very high status in the entire world of sorcery and has the momentum to completely suppress the Zenin family and the Kumo family. However, his lack of top-notch combat power made it impossible for him to refute Chanyu and Shen'er. In front of Zenin Shinji who possesses a Zanpakuto, and in front of a strange woman who possesses a domain, the team of sorcerers that the Gojo family has always been proud of are probably just rotten fish and shrimp in their eyes, right? Grandpa, are you just going to let Chanyu and Shen'er take Master Ming away like this? Gojo Swanyi whispered in Gojo Xianjian's ear. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. At present, only Zenin Shin'er is the most suitable person to protect Gojo Naruto. Wu Tiao Xiangyan shook his head, or rather, this was the most suitable method at the moment. Swanyi, go and ask the chief of the Iiri Inamizu clan, to come to the Yorozwia, and ask him to help heal Ming. Ming's body seems to have been under a lot of pressure after using the technique called Baixia Fa just now. Please pay more attention to him, Mr. Inamizu. Since he couldn't bring Gojo Naru back to the Gojo family, he could only make logistical arrangements. Got it, Grandpa. Gojo Gen nodded. The Gojo family had known about the Yorozwia when it was first established. Now the Zen temple even regarded the Yorozwia as the safest place, so there was nothing wrong with it. After all, the place where the Zen temple is located is indeed the safest place at the moment. Shen'er, I'll go to the Yorozwia with you. Gojo Satoru's face was full of seriousness. As Gojo Naru's older brother, he had to stay by Gojo Naru's side when he lost consciousness. Gojo Shunichi also expressed his attitude. Finally, Chanyu and Shen'er took a look around and expressed his agreement. Iiri's house. Upon hearing the news from Gojo Geniki that Gojo Naru was attacked, Iiri Inami was extremely shocked. What? The attacker is actually a sorcerer with a domain. A sorcerer who can manipulate gravity. Iiri Inami had never heard of such a person, but since he would take the initiative to attack the Gojo family, it undoubtedly meant that such a sorcerer did not belong to the camp of the Sorcerer Association. The other party is a curse master. However, Gojo Naru's record surprised Iiri Inami even more. In this era, a sorcerer who possesses a domain is basically invincible. Gojo Naruto is actually able to block the sorcerer's domain attack at this age, which is something that Iiri Inami could never imagine. After getting more details from Gojo Geniki and knowing that Gojo Naruto relied on Sode no Shirayuki's Bankai, he once again refreshed his understanding of Zanpakuto. Bankai. It turns out that Bankai is a technique that can rival the domain. Iiri Inami had always thought that he took his Zanpakuto seriously enough, but now he thought that he was a little too arrogant. The Yajiya family really made a fortune this time. I believe that once this news spreads, those small families that have not been able to obtain the Gojo family's promise of sword forging will probably be jealous and crazy, right? A Zanpakuto actually possesses a technique that can resist the domain. Although this Bankai sounds extremely difficult, it is at least a hope. Some people previously thought that the Yajiya family gave the Tsuki no Sho, the foundation of their existence, to the Gojo family in exchange for a Zanpakuto, which was a huge loss. Now that we know the true power of Zanpakuto, I believe that no one will say such a big loss anymore, right? Fortunately, Gojo Naru had already promised Joko before, at least the Iiri family has received a promise. Thinking of this, Iiri Inami breathed a sigh of relief. Because of Shoko's existence, the Iiri family at least doesn't need to be as anxious as other families. Zanpakuto is not a wholesale item, and the Gojo family will definitely not allow such a strategic level weapon to leak out easily. Don't you see that the other two of the big three sorcerer families don't have Zanpakuto at all? Compared with the Zenin family and the Kumo family, the Iiri family is much luckier. At least Gojo Naruto even offered to forge a Zanpakuto for Shoko. Although not as far-sighted as the Yagyu family, the Iiri family is also considered to have fallen behind. Moreover, the Iiri family also has a unique talent of reverse curse technique, which is very useful to the Gojo family. Thinking of this, Iiri Inami directly took out Iiri Shoko, who was ready to rest. Since he was going to treat Gojo Naru, Shoko must be brought along. Showing your presence in front of Gojo Naru more often will also make it easier for Gojo Naru to remember to forge a Zanpakuto for Shoko. Let's go, let's go. Where are you going? Iiri Inami had forgotten the place Gojo Geniki had just mentioned, and it seemed that this time he didn't need to go to the Gojo family. Master Inami, go to the Yorozwiya. Gojo Geniki reminded. Oh, go to the Yorozwiya. Iiri Inami nodded. Although he didn't know where this Yorozwiya was, he knew that he just had to follow Gojo Geniki. Zen Temple Home. When Zenin Naobi learned that Gojo Naru was attacked, his expression became very serious. Although he felt regretful about Gojo Naru, who had already had a conflict with the Zenin family, he did not care so much about Gojo Naru's life or death. Even if Gojo Naru really died in this attack, he would not feel too sorry. The Zenin family was originally the enemy of the Gojo family. The appearance of Gojo Naru completely broke the original balance between the two families. From the perspective of family interests, Zenin Naobi naturally hoped that the Gojo family would decline. However, what surprised him greatly was that a curse master with a domain was not able to kill Gojo Naruto. And all Gojo Naru relied on was the Sode Shirayuki. Zanpakuto's Bankai. Gojo Naruto really didn't deceive me. Sode no Shirayuki really has so many techniques, and such a powerful trump card. Chapter 138 Kumo and Zenin under pressure. The Zenin family really missed a lot. Zenin Naobi felt extremely regretful. Now, Gojo Naru and his Zanpakuto system had begun to take shape in the entire world of sorcery. Gojo Naru, who was able to forge Zanpakuto, had become the hope of many small families. Once Gojo Naruto really lets go of the qualification to forge Zanpakuto, then the position of the entire Gojo family in the world of sorcery will definitely not be shaken by the Zenin family. Gojo Naru's experience of fending off the domain cursor with his Zanpakuto was definitely extraordinary. At this moment, no one wanted to delve into the identity of this curse master. They were only shocked at the power of the Six Eyes godson of the Gojo family and the fact that the legendary Zanpakuto had such an exaggerated power. On the other hand, Shinsuke Zenin and Sinin Osamu Zenin, who have almost been judged as sinners of the Zenin family, are in an awkward position within the family. For some unknown reason, news leaked out that Gojo Naru might have cooperated with the Zenin family. As the opposing party of that cooperation, they completely destroyed the Zenin family's hope of rising again. Perhaps, because of the positions of the two families, the Gojo family would never provide any powerful Zanpakuto to the Zenin family. But, that's just if. No one can doubt Gojo Ming's attitude just because of something that has not happened. After all, Gojo Naru forged a special double-blade Zanpakuto for Zenin Jinru. Who can guarantee that Gojo Naru won't forge more Zanpakuto for the Zenin family in the future? Such an assumption has no consequences. Therefore, the people of the Zenin family could only attribute everything to Zenin Shinsuke and Zenin Fan. Especially for Chanyu Shinyi, who was eyeing their status, he didn't mind fanning the flames of such information. As Chanyu Shinyi's elder brother, and with his own strength not weak, his status in the Chanyu family was already unique. Zenin Fan no longer makes casual comments about Gojo Naru. Zenin Shinsuke has also completely given up the idea of confronting Gojo Naru. This battle has completely proved Gojo Naru's strength and the power of his Zanpakuto. If before, Zanpakuto was merely classified as a special curse tool without any special measurement standards. This battle thoroughly told them that the true power of Zanpakuto was enough to rival the realm of a sorcerer. All the small families have gone crazy and started rummaging through their boxes and cabinets, just to find the chips that can make Gojo Ming excited. The Kumo family. Without Kumo Shin, the great forging master, the Kumo family's influence became even weaker. There is no one to inherit the ancestral red blood manipulation technique, and the number of first-level sorcerers in the entire family has been caught up by the Yajawa family. If it were not for its 1,000-year history, the Kumo family would probably have been expelled from the big three sorcerer families long ago. As the head of the family, Kaname had always been speculating about the sudden death of his uncle who had always been in good health. He knew that this must be related to the Gojo family. Ever since Gojo Naru forged the Zanpakuto that could release a pillar of fire, Uncle Kumo returned home in despair. A few days later, my uncle began to arrange his funeral arrangements and even specifically handed over the power of the Blacksmith Association to the Gojo family. The most important thing is that Gojo family did not say a word and did not even refuse, and directly accepted the qualification. Therefore, it was obvious that his uncle had reached some kind of agreement with the Gojo family, and this agreement required his uncle to pay the price with his own death. Kumo was suspicious, but he didn't dare to explore it at all. Since my uncle used this method to end his life, it means that this inexplicable incident will have a huge impact on the Kumo family. In this situation, he could only choose to play dumb, not pursuing the matter, nor daring to pursue it. However, he still felt jealous of the performance of the new generation of the Gojo family. Gojo Naruto had forged many Zanpakuto and was able to fight against the Domain Curse Master with the power of his Zanpakuto, and Gojo Satoru had also demonstrated the power of his unlimited technique this time. The two Six-Eyes Sons of God from the Gojo family seemed to have secured the pinnacle of the future world of sorcery. How long will the Kumo family be suppressed by the Gojo family? Kaname was filled with reluctance. He knew that his family's ancestral technique was definitely not inferior to the Gojo family's unlimited technique, but when would he be able to give birth to a descendant who could master the red blood technique? Thinking of his domineering wife, Kaname didn't want to go back to his room. Have a baby. Give birth to a child with the red blood manipulation technique. This has become Kumo's obsession. Hongxin Palace. He attacked Gojo Naruto and possessed a power that surpassed that of a first-level sorcerer. A trace of doubt appeared on the face of the girl Tianyuan. As a sorcerer with the magic of immortality, she has many old friends in her memory. However, she felt that there was something unusual about this sudden appearance of the Domain Curse Master. It should be an old friend. It seems that Gojo Naru's Zanpakuto is really extraordinary. It can even lure out old friends. Moreover, this Zanpakuto's technique can actually fight against the domain. Is it called Bankai? Is this Bankai an ability that only belongs to Gojo Naruto, or does every forged Zanpakuto have such a technique? If all Zanpakuto had such a Bankai technique, then this would be really fun. A smile appeared on the girl Tianyuan's face. Interesting, interesting. I wonder if Yuki can convey my message. I am already looking forward to meeting the Son of God with 6 eyes who shouldn't exist. In this long life, there are not many things that can attract Tianyuan's interest. And Gojo Naruto and the Zanpakuto he forged are the two things that Tenjin is most interested in at the moment. The Yoroswaya. Seeing Kyojoku Yuki following all the way back, Gojo Satoru and Gojo Shunichi were both confused. They had never seen Kyojoku Yuki before, but since they had seen Kyojoku Yuki standing with Zenin Shinji before, they assumed that Kyojoku Yuki and Zenin Shinji were friends. However, what does this woman want to do by following me into the Wanchaiwu? Although this woman had made efforts to break the barrier before, Gojo Satoru and Gojo Shunichi could not let their guard down. The Yoroswaya would be the place where Gojo Naruto would recuperate, and they would not let anyone whose identity was suspicious get close to Gojo Naruto. Facing the suspicion of Gojo Shunichi and Gojo Satoru, Kyojoku Yuki once again revealed his identity. Master Tianyuan's messenger. Upon hearing that Kyojokuyuki was the messenger of Lord Tenjin, Gojo Shinika's attitude changed instantly, and his original shock at Kyojokuyuki's strength became normal. Chapter 139, The Girlfriend's Identity is Taken for Granted. Being able to serve as Lord Tianyuan's messenger, this Jujuyuki is definitely stronger than himself. Gojo Shinika's original guess about Kyojokuyuki's strength turned into confirmation. Are you the astral body next to Master Tianyuan? As a first-level sorcerer of the Gojo family, Gojo Shunichi also controls the rights to some intelligence. When he heard the surname Kyojoku, he had already guessed the relationship between the woman in front of him and the Kyojoku family in Kyoto. Now, hearing that Jujuyuki was also Lord Tenjin's messenger, he had overlapped Jujuyuki with the information he had collected before. As a member of the 99 family and also the messenger of Lord Tianyuan, there is no doubt that the woman in front of her is the star plasma body of this generation. Astral plasma? Hearing this term, Gojo Satoru and Zenin Shinji subconsciously turned their heads to look at Kyojokuyuki. Zenin was very surprised at the identity of Kyojokuyuki's star plasma, while Gojo Satoru was somewhat curious about it. He had only heard of the importance of Lord Tenjin to the world of sorcery, but he was not very clear about the situation of star plasma. Feeling Gojo Satoru's curiosity, Jujuyuki did not object to revealing his identity and explain the relationship between astral plasma and Tenjin. The so-called astral plasma is a human being that appeared in order to be assimilated by Tenjin-sama. When Tenjin-sama, who possesses the immortality ritual, ages to a certain extent, he will evolve into a non-human state. Therefore, every 500 years, he must assimilate with the astral plasma to reset his physical memory. Jujuyuki spoke of the information about the astral plasma in a very casual manner. Zenin Shinji and Gojo Shunichi fell silent, while Gojo Satoru was deeply impressed. Do we need to assimilate with Master Tianyuan in the future? From now on, you will be Master Tianyuan. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Gojo Satoru's perspective was very unique, and instantly amused Jujuyuki. Although Gojo Satoru and Gojo Naruto look exactly the same, Kyojokuyuki finds that he is not as interested in Gojo Satoru as he is in Gojo Naruto. Master Tianyuan is Master Tianyuan, and we will become one with Master Tianyuan. Gojo Satoru reacted. If the girl in front of him merged with Lord Tenjin, would she still have her own consciousness? Gojo Satoru wanted to ask, but Gojo Shunichi stopped him and shook his head secretly at him. I don't know, what is the relationship between Miss Juju and Master Gojo Ming? Gojo Shunichi took the initiative to speak. Although Kyojokuyuki had played a huge role in the barrier-breaking operation just now, Gojo Shunichi still needed to understand Kyojokuyuki's purpose. Even if it is Lord Tianyuan, even if it is a star plasma body, he still has to check it carefully to avoid the situation like Gojo Ming being assassinated from happening again. I'm Gojo Naru's girlfriend. Besides, I have my own room in the Wanchai-wu. Jujuyuki opened his mouth and spoke. Such explosive news made Gojo Satoru and Gojo Shunichi stunned. How is that possible? Gojo Naru had just been in seclusion for 2 weeks, and before that he had been forging his Zanpakuto, so he had no time to get to know Kyojokuyuki. How can I have time to fall in love? However, if the relationship between the two was ordinary, why would Jujuyuki be so dedicated just now? When did Miss Juju and Master Ming meet? Gojo Shunichi asked Gojo Satoru's question. He knew that today was the first time Gojo Naruto had gone out in a long time. Could it be that Gojo Naruto and Kyojokuyuki had just met for the first time today? Gojo Shinika's guess was confirmed. I just met him today, right here. Gojo Satoru and Gojo Shunichi looked at each other speechlessly, then turned their gaze to Zenin Shinji. They felt that this was not like Gojo Naru's style. Although the girl in front of them, Jujuyuki, was indeed a very beautiful girl, it shouldn't be the kind of girl that would make a 6-year-old boy like Gojo Naru fall in love at first sight, right? Seeing that the two seemed to be very familiar with Zenonjinur, Jujutsu immediately spoke to Zenonjinur. Which room will I live in from now on? Even. Seeing what Jujutsu was thinking, Zenonjinur narrowed his eyes slightly, but did not think of exposing Jujutsu. He could feel that Jujutsu did have a good impression of Naruto Gojo. The most crucial thing is that Gojo Naru's current crisis has not been resolved. If Jujutsu stays in the Yorozwaya, it will provide a certain guarantee for Gojo Naru's safety. Although there are Gojo Shunichi and Gojo Satoru, in terms of real strength, Gojo Shunichi and Gojo Satoru are not as strong as Jujutsu at the moment. Just live in the room next to Gojo Naruto, it will be convenient for you to take care of him. When Gojo Shunichi and Gojo Satoru saw Zenonjinur's reaction, their expressions froze, and they seemed to have temporarily accepted Jujutsu's identity. Jujutsu herself was a little surprised at Zenonjinur's cooperation. She had thought that Zenonjinur would tell the truth, and she had also thought that Zenonjinur would remain silent. However, she never thought that Zenonjinur would cooperate with her so much and even arrange his room next to Gojo Naru. She didn't know what Zenonjinur was thinking, but it was obvious that this man was happy with the relationship between her and Gojo Naru. Okay, since you are Ming's girlfriend, then, you may need to spend more time and effort during this period of time. As Gojo Satoru finished speaking, the people who appeared at the door were stunned for a moment. Girlfriend. Iiri Inami, Gojo Geniki, and Iiri Shoko, who was holding the hand of Iiri Inami, all looked at Gojo Satoru and the person Gojo was talking to, Jujutsu, in shock. None of the three of them knew the identity of Jujutsu. What's going on? Master Ming already has a girlfriend? If I remember correctly, Master Ming is only 6 years old. The girl in front of me looks like she is at least a high school student, and must be 6 or 7 years older than Ming, right? Gojo Swanyi was feeling doubtful. However, he did not say much. After all, he had witnessed the power of this strange girl before. Since Gojo Satoru has already acknowledged the girl's identity, he has no room for doubt. After all, in this place, his identity and status are the lowest, although he is the grandson of the current acting head of the Gojo family. Unlike Gojo Geniki's Buddhist attitude, Iiri Inamika's mood at this moment was very complicated. Although he had not agreed to the marriage proposal of the Gojo family's old patriarch before, in his heart he had always regarded Gojo Naru as his son-in-law, otherwise, he would not have always let Joko take the initiative to go to the Gojo family. Chapter 140 The Consequences of the Astral Plasma Girlfriend. But now it seems wrong. How can a teenage girl be the girlfriend of a 6-year-old boy? The girl in front of me must have some bad intentions. In an instant, Iiri Inami had imagined in her mind countless beauty traps that other sorcerer families had devised in order to obtain their Zanpakuto. At the same time, he secretly complained in his heart that this group of sorcerer families really had no shame at all and actually sent a girl to seduce Gojo Naruto. Gojo Naru is still just a child. Although, this girl is indeed a national beauty, with an extraordinary appearance. Iiri Inami sighed inwardly, then looked down at her daughter who was holding her hand. Well, my daughter is also very beautiful. But, unfortunately, she is only 6 years old and looks more cute than beautiful. Moreover, it seems that his daughter doesn't seem to have any sense of crisis at all. Is 6 the age when love begins? It doesn't seem so. Alas, love begins at the age of 13 or 14. Iiri Shoko looked at the girl whom Gojo Satoru called Gojo Naru's girlfriend, her eyes full of curiosity. Just as Iiri Inami imagined, at her age, Shoko doesn't care about relationships between men and women at all. After all, she is only 6 years old now. No matter how precocious a girl is, she will not start thinking about falling in love at the age of 6. However, looking at Yuki Kyojuku's slightly mature figure, Shoko felt a little envious. Seeing that Gojo Satoru seemed to want to say something to Kyojoku Yuki, Iiri Inami interrupted him directly. "Where is Gojo Naru now? Shoko and I will go check him out. No matter what, I still have to fight for my daughter. Shoko hasn't fallen in love yet, but that doesn't mean she won't regret it in the future, right? Once Shoko has seen such outstanding peers as Gojo Satoru and Gojo Naruto, it will be difficult for her to look up to other boys. As a father, he still has to keep a glimmer of hope for his daughter." The appearance of Iiri Inami instantly diverted Gojo Satoru's attention. "Master Inami, here, you have to help Ming check it carefully. Ever since he used his Zanpakuto S Bankai, he has been in a deep sleep. I don't know what's going on." Led by Gojo Satoru, Iiri Inami and Iiri Shoko entered Gojo Naru's room. Gojo Geniki quietly came to the side of Gojo Shunichi. As the acting grandson, he naturally had to know something about the people related to Gojo Naruto and Gojo Satoru so that he could report the situation to his grandfather when he returned. "Uncle Shunichi, what is the origin of this young lady? Just now, Master Gojo Satoru seemed to have mentioned that she was Master Ming's girlfriend." Gojo Geniki asked in a low voice. Gojo Shunichi nodded calmly. After knowing that Gojo Xianjian had changed his position, Gojo Shunichi no longer had the same tit-for-tat feeling towards Gojo Xianjian as before. He also told Gojo Geniki about the origins of Kyojoku Yuki without reservation. "What? She is actually an astral body? And she is also the messenger of Master Tianyuan." As a traditional sorcerer, Gojo Geniki has great respect for Lord Tenjin. Lord Tianyuan protects the entire world of sorcery and is the patron saint of the world of sorcery. And Yuki Kyojoku, as the messenger of Lord Tenjin, unexpectedly became the girlfriend of Naruto Gojo. This kind of news must be told to my grandfather. Seeing Gojo Geniki hurriedly say goodbye, a smile appeared on Gojo Shinika's face. When Zenin Shina responded to Juju Yuki just now, he already felt that something was wrong. However, the identity of Juju Yuki's star plasma is unquestionable, so he can use Juju Yuki's identity to crack down on other restless members of the Gojo family. Although Gojo Kumahara's position has changed, there are still some diehards of the Gemini Curse faction in the Gojo family. Lord Tianyuan is the most traditional person in the eyes of the traditional diehards. Now, this most traditional person has expressed his importance for Gojo Naru. Such a thing will definitely have a strong impact on the entire diehard faction. Therefore, no matter what the relationship between Kyojoku Yuki and Gojo Naru is, Gojo Shunichi doesn't care. Since Kyojo Yuki himself thinks so and has expressed his attitude, then he and Zenin Shinji will just go with the flow and push forward. Such a development will be beneficial to Gojo Naru. At this moment, Gojo Ming, who was still in a coma, had no idea that his nominal girlfriend had already been locked down with the help of Zenin Shinji and Gojo Shunichi. The Five Family. After hearing Gojo Geniki tell Kyoju about the identity of the Kisei Plasma and Lord Tenjin's envoy, Gojo Kumaen's expression was also full of surprise. He never expected that this strange girl had such a mysterious identity. Although the 99 families of Kyoto are not as powerful as the Gojo family in the world of sorcery, they are still considered powerful families in Kyoto. How could such a girl become the girlfriend of Gojo Naruto? Gojo Naru really creates surprises everywhere. In fact, the Kyojoku family is secondary. The most important thing is the relationship between Kyojoku Yuki and Lord Tenjin. Once Gojo Naru is able to establish a relationship with Lord Tenjin through Yuki Kyojoku, it will undoubtedly be a huge boost to Gojo Naru's future development. Okay, I got it. Wu Tiao Xiongyan nodded thoughtfully. Next, it depends on how he uses this information to make those diehards who are secretly rebelling against him stop. The Gojo family, the Kyojoku family, and the Hoshinoya clan. If these three forces are added together, even if the entire magic world unites, they would still not be their match, right? Such a delusion emerged in Wu Tiaoxiangyan's mind, but then he shook his head. Lord Tianyuan is the most mysterious sorcerer. What exactly is he thinking in his heart? As an ordinary sorcerer, he dare not make any guesses. However, judging from the current attitude of Kyojuyuki towards Gojo Naru, Lord Tenjin should have a positive impression of Gojo Naru. Thinking of this, Wu Tiaoxiangyan felt a little worried again. The importance of the astral plasma to Master Tianyuan is beyond doubt. If Jujuyuki is an astral plasma, he will definitely merge with Master Tianyuan in the future. Under such circumstances, Yuki Kyojoku, who has an independent consciousness, becomes Naruto Gojo's girlfriend. So, if the time comes in the future when Lord Tianyuan really needs to merge, will Gojo Naruto be willing to accept it? In his opinion, Gojo Naruto is not the kind of person who would easily submit to authority. This boy has been challenging the secular rules since the moment he was born. Heaven, curse, and Zanpakuto. These are Gojo Naruto's tools for challenging and breaking the rules. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audio Wave to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.